Welcome to the Lifestylist Podcast, Anne.
Thank you, Luke. It's fun to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm stoked. So to give you guys a little bit of background on my relationship with Anne, we met through, I think it was Bill from...
Bill Quarterman.
Yeah, from his, what's his business called? God, I got to give him a shout out. I'm about to go do ozone IV therapy there. BioCell...
I've blanked out too.
God damn it. I'm going to have to start over. I have to think of what his place is called. I got to give him a shout out. That's not fair. Hang on one second. We'll start over. Audio editors, totally ignore everything happening here. I've been emailing with him like every day. It's funny.
I call him Bill.
Yeah, but he does have a great business there, so I want to give him a shout out. Bill Quaitman. Quaitman is the last name. I only know one Bill, so I never need to think about the last name. Advanced BioCell. Okay.
Yes.
So audio editors, we're back in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the show, Anne.
Thank you, Luke.
Good to see you again.
Yes, good to see you, always.
You're Cookie's favorite person, by the way.
Oh, that's so flattering.
Yeah, she's really taken a liking to you.
From the beginning,
every time she's been in your presence, she'll choose your seat over mine. I don't know if I'm supposed to be hurt or not, but I'm glad that you guys are bonding. So to give you guys a little bit of background, Anne and I were introduced by my friend Bill Quaitman from Advanced BioCell, which is, by the way, a fantastic whole biohacking clinic on the west side of Los Angeles. And Bill kind of turns me on to stuff that's cutting edge. And he doesn't email me or call me for just anything. It's got to be something that's needle moving, that's groundbreaking. And I knew about this deuterium issue that we're going to be talking about, but I didn't really know where to start. And so he called me and said, man, you got to meet these people from Deuterium Depletion centers. They've got their finger on the pulse of this whole deuterium thing. And so we met. And a few weeks ago, we did an interview with your two partners, Dr. Laszlo Boros. I call him Boros, but he says Boros, which is more fun to say, and Dr. Q Collins, two fantastic guys that you work with. But when Anne came over, you guys, I wanted to actually get all four of us in a conversation, but I don't have it sorted yet to record 4 people at once. I thought I did, and then when I plugged in all the mics, one of them didn't work.
That's okay. When I sit between two geniuses, I pretty much keep my mouth shut anyway. So.
You know what's funny is when it didn't work out like that, I thought this is better because I know you and I can really have our own unique conversation around this topic that would be difficult in retrospect with those two guys in there. I mean, they have I won't say they have a hard time, but I had to finesse things a little to even get both of them equal mic time because they both have a powerful perspective and are both, as you said, literally geniuses. So so I'm glad you and I are able to devote some time. So let's allow the audience to get to know you a little bit, Anne. What's your background in chiropractic and natural medicine and all the stuff that you're into before you found the deuterium depletion thing?
Right. So I have a doctorate in chiropractic and clinical nutrition. I have a master's in acupuncture and Chinese medicine. I guess as I was young, I was interested in nature and health. I'm a former celebrity esthetician, which is what they call it now. I arrived in Los Angeles 35 years ago. I'd been to a French skincare clinic in Sydney, Australia, and I was snapped up. The European methods were about to take off here, and it was essentially all the movie people, the movie stars and the people behind the scenes that were our clientele at that time. So I started out with, I guess, a lot of stars, movie stars, TV stars, rock stars, a lot of really amazing people. And I worked in close contact with these people in a very small room where they could be themselves. And I just developed a lot of really nice relationships with people. Early on for me, I realized the skin is a reflection of what's going on inside. So I started to delve into trying to help people with herbs and what to eat, and I realized you need a bit of degree, something substantial behind you. So that's why I chose to go back and become a chiropractor with clinical nutrition. And I've practiced that for quite some time, incorporating functional medicine for over 20 years. And as functional medicine practitioners, we take pride in getting to the root of the problem rather than having someone come and tell you what their symptom is and do this. You're really more looking into the individual. And we always take pride in really finding the solutions via testing each individual to find out what's the best place to start with them. But I kind of realized we're often still not getting to the root of the problem. So when I met the scientists that I work with now, and they explained to me about deuterium, what it is, and how it affects us on a cellular level, the cell physiology part made total sense to me. And then I saw Dr. Boros speak at some medical conferences, and I saw pre and post scans of people who had, black lung and black brain and given 3 weeks to live, and I saw the post scans of 20 years later. Very little black on these scans. It was pretty impressive. And then I myself experienced the benefits of it for myself. So I very quickly just learned how to explain this to my patients in a very simple, easy way that they could understand and get. And they would turn to me off the table and say, I want to know what my deuterium levels are. And I want to do this. And also, I know someone who could benefit. I know if someone has cancer, you just hear it all the time. So I very quickly incorporated into my practice. Felt really good. Felt really good to just really get to the starting point, which we can talk about later. But that's essentially how I've come to this via kind of different routes of always being interested in health and always being a practitioner and trying to find things, the best things that are going to help me figure out what's the best thing to do for this person, which is tough to do sometimes. Now I essentially measure people for deuterium, lower their deuterium levels enough so that their body has the energy to do what it's supposed to do. Getting great results. We early on realized this is kind of silly, just me, us treating one person at a time. It's great, but this is wow. And I hear it all the time from people when I tell them. I tell them this, and now I wait for the wow. Wow, that's pretty amazing. So we thought we need to really share this. So we started to train physicians, and now people are hearing about it, and thankfully people like you are really enabling us to share this with the world, and your people are going to share this with the world, because, it sounds amazing to say this, but we feel it's incredibly important. We feel everybody needs to know about this because it is life-changing.
Awesome.
So we want to...
Thank you for that. We're going to definitely support you in that mission. And since the interview with the guys... I don't know, it's the way my brain works, and it always works in the way that I see how things are connected. Right. So I'm a good networker in terms of, not for myself, well, hopefully for myself too, but I see, this person needs to meet this person because they can do this and this. So I've been fortunate enough to leverage some of my relationships in the industry and make intros for you guys through Dr. Q, and I foresee this quickly emerging within, especially, I don't know much about the Western medicine end, so I don't have relationships there, but I see this as going to catch on as wildfire within the alternative healing and the biohacking community. So
biohacking for sure.
Yeah, and the functional medicine end too, as you said, because I know myself, having had a lot of different health issues that I've overcome, and chasing your own tail around, as you said, all of the testing. And if you go to a traditional doctor, essentially what's going to happen is they're going to look at your symptom. They're either going to prescribe a drug or a surgical intervention, or send you out to a specialist, which is kind of the next step in most cases. And then that specialist is going to look at your symptoms, and they're going to recommend a surgery or a drug. That's kind of the way it goes. But in functional medicine, and with what you guys are doing, it's like, okay, cool, let's look at the symptoms. And if there's something we can do to alleviate those symptoms, great, but let's look at the underlying cause. And to me, that just makes so much sense. So I'm super excited about what you guys are doing, and so happy to get the word out. And I got to say, I kind of feel, I don't want to be precocious, but I feel a little bit like possessive of you guys. It's like, good. I want to introduce you to a bunch of other podcasters, and I will, but I'm like, I got to be the first one to break this story. Because what I do is oftentimes like a journalist, you know? So it's like, I feel like I have got a big scoop, and I don't want to really let it out to my peers until I'm the one that came out with it first. Totally illogical, but it's the way it is, because I think this is so huge. So it's funny too, you mentioned something about your past and coming here 35 years ago. I didn't realize you'd been here that long. I came here 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And also worked in the entertainment industry.
Yep.
And, you know, in myself, I think even a more superficial capacity. But we have a parallel there that I wasn't aware of prior.
Yeah, I'm sure we've run across and worked with a lot of the same people.
Yeah.
I was lucky in that I had them really in a position where they could just be themselves. They didn't have to be the boss or the model or anything else. So I got them at their real core. This is who they are.
Yeah, it's funny.
Which enabled us to make a little bit more of a connection.
Right.
And they felt safe. And these people trusted me. They trust me. So they could just be relaxed.
I never had that relationship with my celebrity clients. It was always pretty high pressure. Some of the musicians here and there, we would become friendly, but definitely, I don't think many of them let their guard down. Well, when I came over to your place, all I needed to know, and it's funny, as long as I've lived in Hollywood and I'm so not like into stars and celebrities, when someone mentions, oh, I used to work with a bunch of celebrities, I can't help but thinking, ooh, who was it? Who was it? But when I went to your house, I saw a signed picture from Daryl Jones, who's been the bass player for the Rolling Stones for a long time. And I'm a bass player. Oh. And the Rolling Stones are my all-time favorite group. So I was like, I don't care about anyone else. She knows Daryl Jones. I'm in.
Oh, that's so cute. Well, Dr. Boros himself was a little entranced. And in fact, I'm just kind of, you know how you get used to the people. We're used to it. Yeah. But he's so great. But he's also a musician. He's brilliant, right? So he's also a musician. So when he met Daryl, I could see he was a little starstruck a little bit, which I don't blame him. But it was cute to watch.
That's cool.
But it was nice they met.
Yeah.
Because Laszlo had the privilege of explaining to him what's going on, and this is what's great about this, to share this.
Yeah, it is. So let's get into this. Now, a lot of people that are listening to this episode here will have probably heard the one that will have come out earlier that week in the series of 2 shows on deuterium depletion. So I want to just tell you guys that are listening now retroactively that you can go back and get a totally different perspective on this issue. If you're coming to this as your second episode, I want to warn people that there are a few things that might be redundant because I'm going to ask you some of the same questions, but I have a feeling that your answers will vary slightly and be a little more unique. So to those that heard the other one and sat through that 3 hours and got your mind blown, forgive me if I'm slightly redundant on some of these, but I'd like to get your perspective. So start from the beginning. What is this stuff called deuterium and why does it matter?
That's what I'm doing now on an everyday basis. So I kind of do it in 4 different steps. Deuterium is a hydrogen. It's an element. It's an atom. It's kind of a cousin of hydrogen. The only difference between deuterium and hydrogen is technically it has an extra neutron, which makes it twice as big and heavy. Deuterium is in our environment. It's natural in our environment. It's not a toxin or anything like that. It's natural. And our body always needs to keep the right level or homeostasis in our body of blood pressure, of mineral levels, things like that. So we know that we are mostly made of water, and water is made of hydrogen and oxygen, right? So then we just go into a little bit of cell physiology. Inside our cells, we have something called the mitochondria. I lose some people when I mention that, but more and more people are hearing about the mitochondria in the news, in magazines. It's also known as the powerhouse of the cell. And inside the mitochondria, it's called the powerhouse because it has thousands of tiny motors called nanomotors, and they rotate at about 9,000 RPM, which is faster than a Ferrari.
That's so crazy. The body is so weird.
So much is happening.
It's so mind-blowing.
And as it rotates, it produces our fuel, which we call ATP, adenosine triphosphate. What's really amazing is from the amount of food that we eat each day, 3 to 5 pounds of food, our body actually makes, inside these mitochondria, the nanomotors make tons of this ATP. I'm like, why do we need that much ATP? Because we're constantly using it for everything that we don't have to think about, all the trillions of chemical reactions that are happening in our body all the time. So we need to make sure we're making good amounts of ATP, because when that drops, we start to not fund things that require this cellular energy. And what we have learnt is that the deuterium could be the culprit, or it's the obstacle that's preventing our cells or inhibiting our cells from making appropriate amounts of ATP because of its size and weight. Essentially, I explain it like this: if your car engine gets very thick, heavy oil in it, it's too much resistance for the motor to go. You're not going to get to be where you want to be. And what you would do about that is you would pour very thin oil into that engine to dilute that heavy oil out so you can move on. What happens inside our cells when we get an overload of deuterium instead of regular hydrogens, it becomes what's called heavy water. Instead of light or regular water, it's now got the bigger hydrogens in there. And physically, it actually gets inside our mitochondria, and our body's always working to try to prevent this from happening. But due to the environment and things that's going on, we are all getting an overload of this deuterium. And what it does, it just hits the motors and it breaks them. It breaks those nanomotors. But more than that, it actually will ping around like a pinball machine, and it will go and break the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. So having the appropriate amount of deuterium is really important for us to know. We call it energy for a better you is our tagline. We want everybody to, and I don't mean quick, fast energy from caffeine or other sources. It's this natural cellular energy that our body produces that keeps us healthy. We also say we provide wellness through metabolic restoration. Because what happens when these nanomotors break, it starts to break or cause metabolic dysfunction, which may start with a little bit of fatigue or weight issues or focus and cognition. And down the road, though, wherever kind of your weak point is, your body will decide it's not going to fund. It can lead to all these chronic metabolic conditions that are creating a lot of pain and fear and suffering, such as cancer, diabetes, autoimmune issues, Alzheimer's. So we feel this is really important for everybody to know about, because it's getting back to the tiny, tiny subcellular level. Instead of kind of working around here and trying to fix things from up around here, we can prevent things from happening. We can rectify things that have gone awry. But we also just have a lot of wellness health people who want to make sure that they live a great life in every which way. And mind also, and motivation, and all energy is required for all these things. So that's why we feel this is so important.
That's a really great way to describe it. It totally makes sense. And what's fascinating about it, what was blowing my mind there is, God, if you just think about how miraculous the human body is, and how things that are so small, I mean physically small, have such a huge impact. So I'm picturing a human cell, right? And you think, well, the cell, it can't get any smaller than that. That's pretty small. But then there's things that go in and out of cells, and then within those cells, there's you said thousands of mitochondria? Is
Dr. Q was telling me that, no, there's thousands of tiny motors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Within the mitochondria in a cell are
Yes.
thousands of tiny little motors that spin in this amazingly divine way and produce ATP. It's just incredible that that's all going on inside a cell. It's like a cell is its own universe with its own little solar system. It's just bizarre. But it makes sense when you talk about the, sluggish crude oil in your engine versus something that's got more viscosity and that's lighter.
Yes.
And that's a really good analogy for this. I think that makes a lot of sense. So you get this heavy hydrogen in the mitochondria, and then that's kind of like just gumming up the wheels or motors, quite literally, and inhibiting the efficiency of your ATP production.
That's correct.
Yeah, and so many of us are probably going to stimulants like coffee and whatever you can do to get more energy. I think that's a really common complaint from people, is a lack of energy, and so we do something exogenously from outside, right, and try and input. I mean, this is what I do every day. I'm like, oh my God, I'm tired. Let me put a bunch of stuff in until my energy level rises. But with this theory and practice, what we can do then is get our body back into its normal state of homeostasis, where it's organically producing its own energy efficiently.
That's correct.
Right?
One of the doctors I was training early on said to me, doesn't this new energy give your patients anxiety? And I had to think about it, because I had gone through this. I'll tell you what happened to me, but I had to think about that. No, I just feel like I did 15 years ago. So you just have that natural energy that we didn't even think about at the time. You know, we weren't noticing that we were tired because we weren't.
Yeah.
But it actually is what ages us backwards by doing this. Our bodies act as it did when we were younger. The problem with deuterium is our body is so smart, it has all these natural mechanisms for removing deuterium, which we can talk about. The problem with it is it's a bit of a catch-22 because as we get higher, we start to lose that energy to remove it.
Oh,
so then it gets higher,
right.
and then we lose that ability, and then it gets higher and higher. So what we do is very quickly deplete it, so your own body's natural mechanisms for removing deuterium can kick back in again, as it used to, as it's supposed to. We just live in an age where we are more exposed to it, and we are living a little bit of a lifestyle that's preventing us from removing it. For example, REM sleep is one of the mechanisms for removing deuterium. There's always been stress in the world, but I think in this last few decades, in a city like this, people have this chronic low-grade stress, and they have 3 jobs and a lot more, and that this low-grade anxiety
this is my life, yes,
doesn't allow us to fully go into that reparative, restorative, deuterium depleting. Yes, we all knew it was reparative, we all knew it was restorative, but it's also a deuterium depletion method.
Wow.
Of REM
I
sleep.
totally resonate with that. You know, I just took a trip to Northern California to the Amp Coil Summit, and I went and visited my mom, and I rented this Airbnb, a beautiful 60s mid-century modern post and beam house in the middle of the redwoods, and I just took some time for myself up there. And the house had no cell service. There's no smart meter. Even within the house, to turn on Wi-Fi to use the internet and to be able to just text on my phone and stuff, even the Wi-Fi signal was really weak in the house. It was a very low EMF environment. And I swear, I mean, when I was out at that house, I was a different person.
Yeah.
I was just like, who is this? What is that? My whole experience just felt so different. I thought, what the hell is going on? I feel amazing.
Such a good story.
Yeah, and it occurred to me. I said, oh my God, I have anxiety and I don't even know it.
Yeah.
And it's just living in the city.
We've gotten used to it.
Yeah, you just, like you said, as you get older, you sort of adapt to having less energy, or just for me, more brain fog, being more irritable, just being more stressed out, less able to spin a bunch of plates at once as I once could, in many ways. And a lot of that has to do with, you know, those of us that live in cities, the city wears you down over time, and you lack, I think, the resilience to kind of meet that stress. So when you're in your 20s and you move to New York City or London or LA or wherever, you know, it's like, oh, you're taking the world by storm and you're out all night. But now I'm creeping up on 50, and it's like, oh man, this place wears me out. And it's not until I have the contrast of getting away and getting out into nature, and a lot of that, I'm sure, is due to the biological stressors, such as having these, you know, high levels of deuterium and actual toxins in our bodies and things like that. So this is making a lot of sense to me. What I wonder, and I think I talked about this with your partners, but we'll just cover it again from your perspective. It seems like, you know, I believe in the divine intelligence of whatever it is that created us. Some people call that God. Something made all of this work out the way that it works out, and doesn't seem like there's many accidents in the universe. So if there's this element called deuterium in the environment, and it's a natural thing, then it's not a toxin. It's something that we would have been created to dispel, to be able to offload, right? So is it that because now we live in an age where we're under so much environmental stress that the capacity that we would have once had, evolutionarily speaking, to deplete deuterium, you know, just throughout our whole lives and never have it build up, is it that we just don't have the ability to do that anymore because we're so far removed from our natural environment and the body's innate sort of power and wisdom to do that?
A lot of it is that, in which case it's not really our fault, it's just the world we live in.
Right.
Some of it is a bit our fault. My grandparents did not eat from a package. They didn't eat potato chips, and you know, it's not really our fault, but it's just the way life has gone. And especially in the 60s, when both parents went to work, you know, we call it margarine in Australia, margarine here, it's full of hydrogenated oils, and it was just that lifestyle that was more convenient that has led, we feel, to a lot of these conditions, because they've been increasing the amount of deuterium that we've taken in, my grandparents were much more robust at an older age than what my mum's current friends are now, that are she's losing to cancer all the time.
Right.
So the numbers have gone up. The numbers are staggering. So our job is to learn this so we can do the things that we can do by changing what we are putting into our body and thinking about it and understanding and having the educated choices. And that's our job, to show this to people because it all makes sense. And the other part of it, yes, our bodies have been a little bit bombarded. In acupuncture school and chiropractic school, I remember my clinician said, Dr. Cooper, you're never going to have any patients because all you do is tell people to take vacations. Because I think it is important. I mean, I'm Australian. But... And that's really good, and I think it's great to.
Do you think that has anything to do with the culture of Australia?
Of course.
You guys are way more chill, right?
We are. I don't know what it is. We all plan to, as soon as we get the heck out of school, we're going all over the world. That's and that's what a lot of us did.
I've noticed that, yeah.
But also, what I'm now doing is helping people to be able to live in the world that we live in by making them stronger, right? There's a lot of people really struggling to live in this world right now. People are having to move out. They're being told to move out in order to thrive. They're moving out into the country. They're living up in the top of a tree. They're isolated because they can't deal. They're so sensitive to their environment. And we have patients, and I can read you a testimonial from someone recently who had to move out of town, couldn't deal with a lot of the radiation and just the city life. And he's doing really, really well from Deuterium Depletion. He's getting his life back. He's going back into civilization and getting back into the world again. So we can really help people deal with the way the world is right now, because there's only so much we can change.
Yeah, there's no going back.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing. Even if you go live in the middle of the mountains in Alaska, you're still getting...
Well, I'm not going to be very happy doing that, so we need to learn how to live.
You're still going to be getting radio waves and all kind of chemtrails and all sorts of weird stuff. I mean, the fact is there's no escaping, the world we live in. I think it's worse in cities like this, for sure, on so many different levels, the air, the water, the EMF pollution and all that. But still, even if you get out in the country... there's still issues with that. So I guess the idea here is thinking of it from a Paleolithic standpoint. I see that, let's say 10,000, 12,000 years ago, we would have had deuterium in the environment still. We still would have been exposed to it in some of the water and in the air and in some of the food, but we would have had more resilience to get rid of it on our own. And we virtually wouldn't have been eating any food, and we're going to get into the food. We wouldn't really, as hunter-gatherers, be eating high deuterium food on a regular basis. Because as I understand it, fruit would be one of the highest, and fruit isn't in season all the time, and it goes bad very quickly once it falls off the tree. It's not something that a hunter-gatherer type person would have been able to store or preserve or have year-round. You'd eat some high deuterium, freaking papaya or whatever, running around the jungles of New Guinea, and then you'd be out of papayas for a while, and you'd go back to eating squirrels or nuts or whatever the hell you're eating.
And when you do eat a squirrel, the first thing that they eat is the organs and the fatty part of the squirrel, not the flesh that we eat, right? So we just have to kind of learn what is high in deuterium and what is low in deuterium, and that's what our goals are, to teach people. And we have lists that we give our patients, and we want to train people.
Ooh, I want that list.
We'll send you the list, and actually anybody today who wants the do's and don'ts of deuterium depleting foods can go to our website, ddcenters.com, and they can actually click to get a free consultation.
Oh, great.
Or they can click to get on the email list, which we send out regularly with updates. Our scientists are learning all the time too, but recipes, things like that, just to help people continue to be motivated. What's important is this is new. It's something new for people. So what's made it easy for me is that we have serious science and pedigree behind this. They've got over 100 years of collectively of clinical research, and these are double PhDs. These, you met these guys.
Yeah, they're no joke.
Dr. Boros is a 9th physician in his family. He's the youngest professor at UCLA, taken on because of his quality papers. They've written over 100 peer-reviewed quality papers. So this confidence that I got from them has enabled me to really talk about this, because it's the law. This is like, it's like Newton discovering gravity. This is a law. This is not something they're trying to prove. This is a law. Right, so I feel it's enabled me to like, yeah, you better get out and show this to people.
Right.
So we need confidence, and we need to be able to give people hope for them to get started in the first place with confidence and to stay motivated. But that hope helps them to continue on with something, and as they do, they start to feel better and they get more energy, and then life changes. Energy is required for fun. You need energy to have fun. Energy is required to be motivated, to think about your future, to make plans. And if you don't have that energy, you don't even start in the first place, and you don't really follow through with what you want to do. You need it.
Yeah.
You know, people
You're so right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of people that listen to the podcast, and the people, those of you listening, by the way, we have a private Facebook group called the Lifestylist Podcast. You can search the Lifestylist on Facebook and you'll find the group, request to join. It's private, and we have conversations in there. And most of the conversations are about physical health. And I look in that group, I'm like, you guys, it's about prayer and meditation and mindfulness and spirituality. That's the answer. But what I realize is that when any one of us is low on energy, any human being, I don't care how spiritual you are, what sort of morals or values or your character, your integrity, like all that can be totally there.
You're just not vibrating.
Yeah, but without energy, man, it's difficult to live as your highest self and really, as you said, have the motivation to pursue, the highest good and to really fulfill your mission here. And so I'm, as much as sometimes I want to discount, just like, God, I'm sick of all this health stuff. I just want to meditate. It's doing oneself a disservice to totally discount the physical, and so there's this, for me, this sort of razor's edge, this delicate balance of not getting too caught up and distracted in the body, because we're not the body from a metaphysical point of view, but the body is this vehicle that we have to carry our spirit around and to do good deeds and to be of service in the world, right? And so you've got to have the body strong and tuned up and energetically on fire, I believe, in order to complete the soul's mission.
Absolutely.
And so,
also just for your brain to function in a way. You know? I mean, you need this cellular energy for your brain to function properly. And Oxford University, independent of us, have done studies on deuterium depletion and depression, anxiety, and schizophrenia. So, yes, it's about having the cellular energy to do and to have your body do all the trillions of things. But it also, I mean, people focus better. We get emails from people who come in with all sorts of conditions, and they, Dr. Cooper, you didn't tell us I was going to be able to have focus better at school or to write and to learn, which is what you need to do in order to plan and be spiritual. You have to have that higher functioning brain. You have to plan your trip to India to go see your guru and survive the damn food and water once you get there. Even for detoxification, it's people, because this is not a toxin, and people say it's a toxin, and all of those other things are important. But if you have cellular energy, your own detoxification systems will kick in, where you don't have to then do all of these other things. We love to, and I did a lot of things in my practice, but now I do this first on everybody. I test them, I deplete their deuterium. My job is to remove obstacles. As a chiropractor, and the first thing we learn is our body has innate intelligence in chiropractic school. And what we're doing is making sure that our central computer, the brain, is able to send all the messages to our organs and our body to do what it's supposed to do. We remove the obstacle of pressure or inflammation on those nerves to get to those bodies. So we remove that obstacle by aligning the spine. As an acupuncturist, we remove the obstacle of stagnation or whatever is impeding the flow of qi throughout the meridians in our body. So we have that energy, which creates homeostasis and balance in our body in all sorts of ways, emotionally very much so also. As a deuterium depleter, I remove the obstacle of deuterium from our cells so that our cells can go to work and allow our body to do what it's designed to do, what it's supposed to do. It heals your arm if you cut it. You don't have to think about it and tell it, because it's getting the right messages and it's getting the right energy from your cells to do so.
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
Simple.
It is simple. And that's why I wanted to interview you on this topic, because I knew you'd have a way of bringing this home that makes sense to people.
We can make it really, and it's incredibly complicated because the body is incredibly complicated, as is the mind.
Yeah.
But let's just really make it like, this is all you need to do. This is really all you need to do. And, you know, even medicine has gotten so far away from nature and simplicity. We all learn how complicated the body is. In chemistry, I'm just like astounded and fascinated. This is so organized. It's so organized what's going on in here. But yeah, doctors have asked us, wow, how do you know, how does this work? I'm like, listen, it's really simple. We actually work with air, my Australian, air, food, water, sunshine or light therapy, and appropriate movement. They're the things we start with to enable the body to have the right homeostasis of deuterium so that their body can work properly. And then over time, if that's, you know, there's been a lot of damage that's occurred, then we can come in with other modalities. But often the body is really good at fixing itself once it's unimpeded.
I like what you were saying before about just removing the obstacles that your body's encountering on its way to restoring itself, healing, and producing enough energy to go about your mission. And I was thinking about the correlation in spiritual pursuit. A lot of us tend to get caught up in, oh, I need to be a good person. I need to be happy. I need to be in bliss. I have to go find God somewhere, you know, like God's hiding. And really what it is, it's removing the obstacles in your personality, your ego, your emotions, your preconceived beliefs, negativity, whatever it is that's blocking you from having that experience of God.
They often say, let go and let God.
Yeah.
Right? So here we're just letting go of this stuff and let God allow your body to do whatever made us, somebody smart made us, what they designed us to do.
That's awesome. There's one question I had before we get onto the food. I want to talk about food and water and unpack that a little bit because there were some things that I didn't get to cover with the guys that I want to ask you. But before I do, I know what I wanted to say was it's tough for me to isolate different modalities and different therapies and things like that as this health obsessed person that I am. Sometimes I don't know which of the 10 things that I've adopted, because there's always new things that I'm adding and old things I'm letting go. I don't know what's helping. It sucks. It's hard for me to isolate an experiment. So say I stop taking all supplements. I don't make any other changes. I just test my deuterium levels, and then I go about a depletion protocol, which we'll talk about, and then track the results. Unfortunately, that's not the way I do it because I'm just not patient enough to not do other stuff. But I have to say, anecdotally, I think it's been about a month or so since you three came over here for the first interview. I got on the deuterium depleted water that we'll explain, of course. And I've been following the ketogenic diet that's recommended pretty well. Had a couple slips with fruit here and there, a couple ice cream binges. 2 nights I went nuts on ice cream. It just hit me. I couldn't resist. But I haven't been eating carbs or any of the weird stuff that's high in deuterium. And I have to say, my energy level is freaking insane. And it's getting more and more. And I can tell, especially because I just did a road trip to Lake Tahoe, then into Sonoma County, drove back to LA. Normally, all that driving would completely destroy me, and I would just be smoked. That was a good litmus test to the energy level in my body. And I drove there, no problem, got there, felt great. So something's definitely happening as a result of this therapy. So I just want to put that out there. I'm having my own experience. I'm going to go for a couple more months and then retest and see, what I'm working with. I've been doing some breath work, but I have not been using the mask, which is sitting over there. And I just remembered, so we're going to talk about that. But I do a lot of pretty intense breath work that might be accomplishing some of the mask. Have not been doing enough high intensity training that is recommended with the protocol. So as a kick in my own ass, I need to integrate some of that. But I definitely have not been drinking anything other than deuterium depleted water, or in some cases diluting my spring water with deuterium water, to make coffee or something like that. So there's that. I did want to ask, though, if you happen to know how NAD is related to the whole mitochondrial function and ATP production. And the reason I ask is because a lot of people now are really into supplementing with the precursor to NAD, which I've been taking, called True Niagen, which is not like exogenous NAD, but it helps your body make it. And then, against the wishes of Dr. Boros, would be so pissed at me, and Dr. Q probably too, because in the interview they were like, "Stop taking supplements. You don't need them. You just have deuterium." But I was offered an offer that I couldn't refuse at Next Health for an NAD IV,
right,
which is all the rage now in the biohacking world and fitness performance and stuff. And I was about to take my trip. So I went and did this freaking NAD shot or IV. It takes about 3 hours to get it all in. It's a huge bag of stuff, probably full of deuterium in the solution. I'll just put that out there. But I got to say, a combination of doing the depletion, then getting that IV of NAD, my energy is off the charts. I feel amazing. So do you know anything about NAD as it relates to this?
Dr. Boros, as a biochemist, would really be able to help you understand that. But from what I've asked of them is that NAD, yes, it's part of the Krebs cycle, but it may give energy, but it may not be long term, right? What we are looking for is actually aging your body backwards so it functions as it did earlier. It may also contribute to something called metabolic crowding, which is when we take a lot of things in, our body has to deal with it, right? And sometimes a lot of stuff is backing up, and it's almost like you're sending a whole bunch of taxi cabs in to pick you up to take you home. They may not all be necessary, and then they're all waiting in there. It's kind of my simple way of explaining it. I can get you a better explanation than that if it helps.
That makes sense.
But Luke, as a functional medicine, acupuncture, I got hit with chronic fatigue after working, we're young, we kept going, sleep, what's sleep for? Now we know. But
when I was young, I was like, I used to think it was for losers.
I felt weaklings sleep.
You sleep 8 hours a night? What's wrong with you? Move to the suburbs, get out of my way. I'm a city boy.
Yeah, I wish I'd have known then what I know now.
Oh my God.
But so I used a lot of my techniques. I love chiropractic for myself. Acupuncture I fell in love with because it really calmed me down. But after all my studies and overworking and kind of being a little bit of taking, my job is to take care of everybody else and kind of, I just crashed eventually. I'm only human. I didn't think it would ever happen, but it did. And it really sucked. So I did whatever I could, what I thought was going to, and really nothing was working. Sadly, it was astonishing. And that's how far I had crashed. My body was so broken down. Probably not sleeping was not a good, contributor to that. But I had already met the doctors and I'd said, listen, guys, get me the water, and it took us a while to get it all through the country, get it legal through the FDA and everything here. But I only got a small amount, but that's all I did. I was too fatigued to even really cook properly and do things. This is how bad it can get for people. I talk to people all the time. How's your energy? 2. I can relate. You can't even take care of yourself at this point. So I didn't have the energy to really do anything, really. All I did was this.
Wow.
I just drank the water. And I had tested myself with a handheld resting metabolic rate device prior to starting the water. I was ridiculously low. And that's how I felt. And it was astonishing when you come from being a high energy person. So I know how it feels to be like, oh, you have no future. This is not good. But even not enough energy to really pull yourself out of it. But so I was low, but I tracked myself with this device 3 times in triplicate, so 9 times a day. I have a very good story, which I'm careful to tell, but I will. My resting metabolic rate went up 40% in 7 days. I could feel it. My friends could hear it in my voice. I'm like, oh, this must be me just desiring this so much. But the guys, no, the numbers don't lie. It got me back in action. Although we only had a small amount of water, it was kind of an accidental experiment, because then I ran out and I was like, oh. And then you go, oh my God, I forgot in 1 week how bad you could possibly feel. That's why energy is a funny thing. You'll ask people because I guess that's why women can go back and have babies. They forget how painful it was. We forget how bad we feel very quickly.
Yeah.
And we got more and I got back on it again. So I tell the story with the caution of just letting people know that it's like your bank account. When you run low on funds, you have to prioritize the most important place to send those funds. A roof over your head. Your body's very smart. As you're funded with energy again, your cellular energy is going to choose the most important place to send that energy to fund. It may or may not be where your symptoms are initially. So trust that your body's picking the best place to repair and heal first. Most people notice it pretty quickly. Most people notice energy or cognition or things pretty quickly. But we have had patients who've not noticed anything for 2 months. Just, so that's why we really have to explain this properly. Get people to understand the physiology, what it is, what you need to do to get your life back, and to have them make that commitment. It took years or decades to accumulate this deuterium. You need to give your body some time. We can remove it. We can deplete it very quickly with what we have, the deuterium depleted water. That's fantastic. And that's what's great about the deuterium depleted water. It gets people down into what we call the desired range, where your own mechanisms can kick back in again, where you're now funded again to repair stuff. But sometimes it takes longer. The damage has been longer, so it takes a little bit more time for your body to start healing things.
In terms of the testing and working with those numbers within that range, which is high, and then the safe kind of number, and then the the goal is to get it under a certain number. I think mine, I did breath and saliva with you guys, and the average, one was 43, one was 46. The average was around 145, 145, something like that. And the guy said, well, that's high, but that's pretty much everyone's going to be at that level. What was yours, if you remember?
Yeah, I think I was around 146, 147.
Okay.
I had a reason to be high. I did have a reason to be high. But mine came down. I mean, I had very good results.
What's the highest number you've seen in someone?
Well, the deuterium is in our oceans at 155 parts per million.
Okay.
So this is, if you live by the ocean, it's in your atmosphere. We are breathing it in. So you can, eat a lot of deuterium and breathe a lot of deuterium and drink a lot of deuterium.
Sure.
And raise your levels into the mid 150s.
Oh, okay.
Which we have seen. Generally, these are people that have sent us, that have come from, an oncologist or somebody who's with someone who's very ill. Mm-hmm. We've had some patients come in with high numbers where all we do is measure deuterium, deplete deuterium, and just, let your body have the cellular energy to go to work. So it's not a diagnostic tool, but if somebody does have high levels, we do recommend that they go, get checked out and see if there's anything underlying going on.
And what's the lowest number you've seen of someone coming in that's not depleted their levels at all? And has anyone walked in and been under the crucial 130? Or?
We have. Not a lot of people. Mm-hmm. The people that we have so far that I've seen come from like British Columbia. They're living in high elevations. So they're, there's a lower incidence of cancer and diabetes in Utah and Denver. They live at a higher elevation.
Oh, interesting.
So the deuterium is too heavy to float that high.
Oh.
So they're not breathing it in, but also the water that they're consuming is from the snow that has melting. Their food hopefully is being watered by the rainfall and not irrigated from a lake that, it's when irrigation came in that we started to eat foods high in deuterium.
Oh,
my friend the other day told me a story. She's just learning about, she said, Michael J. Fox, I met them actually when I was early on here, he and his wife, but I think he's just written a book on, really searching for happiness. So he went to Bhutan, he went to the Himalayas, where, you find happy people. They're very spiritual and all of these things, which I'm sure is giving them a much better quality of life. But he was astounded at how he felt so much better, and his Parkinson's situation was so much better.
Wow.
What we want people to know is, yes, we all learned that. People went for TB to the mountains. One of the reasons they feel better is because they're lowering their deuterium levels.
Wow.
They're getting the cellular energy to have that healing process kick in.
Is their deuterium getting lower because they're at a high altitude drinking lower deuterium water and...
They're breathing less in.
Ah, okay.
Right. And they're consuming less. We treat with air, food, water, sunshine, and movement, but the air part is important. And our scientists are so smart, they're always trying to find ways to help people deplete deuterium on their own. The water is fantastic, but not everybody can be on the water. They're trying to really teach the world how you don't get sick and how you can maintain great health. And so they designed a mask that when you wear this mask,
Oh yeah, I have it right
your
here.
mask.
You got to explain it, and then I want you to show me how to use it.
Yeah, I will. And that's why we're doing
there
this.
was like 4 pages, I think, that Q sent me on how to use it, and I was like, okay, I'll get around to this, and then now it's been shelved.
We've made quick videos now.
Cool.
We've made quick videos now, which is much easier for people to learn. And this is why we're sending out regular emails, because, yeah, stuff gets shelved. Something else comes along shiny and bright, and you lose. So this is why we're really trying to get people to understand that this is kind of a way to live. It's really a lifestyle. You're the lifestyle podcast, right? This is really how you can live health.
What does the mask do?
So particularly when you're consuming the deuterium depleted water, you're lowering your deuterium load, so the air that you exhale will have lower deuterium content. So you're rebreathing that rather than what's in your room, which is, especially if you live in a humid or beach environment, it's high.
Yeah.
So you're taking less in, and you will also rebreathe a little bit of your own carbon dioxide, and that carbon dioxide will inform your hemoglobin to release oxygen to your tissues.
Whoa.
So you're going to become more oxygenated in your tissues, which, in many hospitals in Russia, they use this. The doctors go in and they see how long someone can hold their breath, which is something we teach patients as a way to track their progress, because the longer you can hold your breath, the more oxygenated you are, the more likely you're going to respond better to whatever's going on.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Plus, that oxygen has a higher affinity and avidity to deuterium, which means it loves to grab a hold of it and it doesn't let it go until you excrete it out. So the mask has essentially 3 benefits.
So all I had to do was just wear the mask when I'm hanging around. It's so funny. I'm so glad I asked, because it's there on my coffee table. Now I want to wear it during the interview. Essentially, for those of you listening that can't see things, you can watch this on YouTube. Actually, you know what? I'm going to grab this mask and show the people on YouTube.
Listen.
Show them what it looks like. But basically, it looks like kind of like one of those masks you would wear if you were painting your house, a smaller version that you get from Home Depot that's, one of those filtration sort of safety masks. And so those of you watching on YouTube, it looks a little something like this. So I could just be rocking this. It's called the D-Terminator.
Yes, we're all D-Terminators.
That's
yes.
We are the
D-Terminators.
I'm just like, it's terminating deuterium. We always refer to it as D. So I just walk around the house.
Most of our patients actually wear it while they sleep. A lot of people wear it while they sleep. I have women call me, "Thank you so much. I can now sleep with my husband again," because it really helps with the snoring.
Oh, okay, cool.
But yeah, if you can wear it while you sleep, that's great. Some people are light sleepers, and if it does bother you, then you can wear it around the house while you're relaxing. And
I'm
also,
so excited.
we can teach you some exercises if you like to accelerate the benefits of it, but that's the reason why the mask is great. Is it eliminates another thing that you kind of have to do, another exercise. You can just passively wear the mask.
I think that's why I sort of was just... I didn't prioritize getting, reading the paperwork that came with the mask, because I thought, I already do tons of breath work. I'm hyper oxygenated all the time because I'm doing like heavy holotropic breathing and Kundalini yoga and all this kind of stuff. But that's cool. I'm on it. I'll start wearing it all the time. Yeah.
So it was amazing, actually, because in the beginning I put a dehumidifier in the bedroom. I was shocked how much water we exhale. So there's a lot of, coming out of us.
Right. That's interesting, because a friend of mine, Matt Blackburn, who's, if I'm a biohacker, he's like a biohacker PhD. He's badass. But one of the things that he does is he uses a humidifier in the bedroom at night, because as an anti-aging protocol, because according to him, you lose so much of your hydration through your skin and through your breathing while you're sleeping. That's why you're so thirsty and dehydrated when you wake up. But according to him, you can hydrate yourself through breathing and through your skin by keeping your room really humid. However, it just occurred to me, if one was to do that, you'd want to use deuterium depleted water.
It's too expensive.
In your humidifier, which would be like ridiculously expensive.
As the esthetician, yes, that sounded like a good idea to me too, until I met these brilliant scientists who explained to me, and this is what's really amazing. This is what's really wow. And I kind of I said, can I get my money back on my textbooks and my education? Because yes, this Krebs cycle is to make ATP, but it actually is a hydrogen recycling plant. which means it's constantly recycling hydrogens. So if we get, it's always working. If a deuterium comes in, kick it out and replace it with a regular hydrogen. That's what we're doing, right? But we also have, we're mostly made of water, but about 30% of the water is extracellular, outside of our cells. Most of it is intracellular, which means it's inside our cells. And this metabolic water needs to be low in deuterium, right, to protect it from getting into the cells and stopping us from living. Mm-hmm. But we actually make this metabolic water ourselves, which is really wow, gives us so much power in our life. And we make it by eating fat. We actually convert fat into this deuterium depleted water that we're having patients purchase in the beginning. It's the fastest way to get them down, but then we train them how that they can continually make their own metabolic water by having a high-fat diet, which people are still, really? High-fat diet? That's safe?
People still question that?
People still question it.
That's funny. I guess in my circles, everyone's on board with that now.
People
but
do.
I forget about your general public are still largely brainwashed by the propaganda of the 70s and 80s that was perpetuated by certain interests in the food industry that got everyone to buy low-fat food, which is just a total marketing thing that had no basis in reality.
That's what's so nice for me to be able to do this, to really help people, you know, find out what's real and what's not real. And my friend just came back to me, and he fearful of, you know, PSA high, actually pre-diabetic, and, you know, sent off to the cardiologist for, you know, possible heart stuff. But it wasn't until the PSA went. It's the cancer part that really puts...
What is that PSA?
The prostate-specific antigen, right?
Oh.
So, you know, fear of cancer is what motivates people more than heart and other things I've seen, diabetes.
Right.
So he's been on the deuterium depleted water, and he did adopt a pretty good high-fat diet. We call it actually a deuterium depleting ketogenic diet. And he's called me, says, listen, PSA is way down. No problem. Don't have to have biopsy. Don't have to do anything.
Wow.
No hemoglobin A1C, which is, you know, the indication of blood sugar. No problem. No pre-diabetes. His cholesterol is as low as, he says, how did my cholesterol get so low? And all I did was eat fat. So
that's
I
fascinating.
want to share that. Don't be afraid of eating fat. I've always eaten. Chiropractic school, they would fight over me, because in exams we have to palpate the spine. I'm the only one that didn't plump up, and they wanted me as their model so that when they're in an exam they could find my bones.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
and
funny.
I'm eating, that's all fat, you know. I'm like, I'm not the fat one here.
Wow,
They're all eating potato chips out of stress. And I just, you know, I grew up on butter. I love butter. And even though I heard it was bad for you, I don't care. It tastes good. So
you didn't fall for the fake news about butter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're teaching people also about cholesterol, because that's really what's gotten people fearful. Everybody, the first thing they want to know when they go to the doctor, what's my cholesterol level?
Right.
So as deuterium builds up in our bodies, it decreases our cellular energy. But over time, Dr. Q's an immunologist. If it gets into, for example, the thyroid, the three-dimensional structure is different, right? Our body, that can trigger an immune response. What's that in there, right? So a lot of these autoimmune stuff can be deuterium related. Cholesterol, one of our major nutrients, cholesterol is supposed to be broken down by the sun into pregnenolone, one of our master hormones, which is broken down into our steroid hormones, including vitamin D, and bile salts, which now allow us to break down fats.
Oh, interesting.
If the cholesterol becomes, we call it deuterated cholesterol, the bonds between the carbons in the cholesterol and hydrogen, the deuterium bonds are 7 times stronger. So the sun, you can go in the sun, you can do all these biohacking things, but if the bonds are so strong because there's too much deuterium in there, it kind of is unusable cholesterol.
Oh,
so
interesting.
As we lower the
unusable
deuterium,
cholesterol from the standpoint that cholesterol, as you described it, is a nutrient. It's something that we need. It's not this satanic, scary thing we need to avoid. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's so interesting. So if you have this deuterated, sounds like Deuteronomy. If you have this,
well, it's got a lot to do with it, by the way. But Laszlo will explain that.
Oh no, way, that's funny. That's funny. So if you have high deuterium in your cholesterol, then the usefulness of that cholesterol,
you can't break the bonds down. Okay. It can't be broken down into what it was given us to do.
Right.
what it was formed to
And
do.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because on my notes here, I did have cholesterol I wanted to talk to you about. Largely, per usual, the audience is used to this, I'm sure, but I ask personal questions because it's like every interview is actually really a consultation just for me, and I let the audience listen in.
You're so smart.
I'm halfway kidding.
You're so smart.
I'm halfway kidding, but no, I get a lot of good information that I use. My last labs for my hormones and all that showed all the cholesterol stuff was like all in the red, high. And after interviewing enough intelligent people, like Dr. William Davis, who's a cardiologist, he was like, he goes, you don't even need to, not only does cholesterol not matter, you don't even need to look at your labs for it. It's irrelevant. It means nothing. And I'm like, this guy's really smart. But that goes against so much of the knowledge that we used to have coming out of the medical industry. What he recommended, he said, dude, as long as you're eating a low sugar, high fat diet from grass-fed meats and grass-fed butter and all that, not canola oil fats, but healthy fats.
Right. That's the key.
He said, as long as you're doing that, you're eating, basically eating paleo is what he said. Just vegetables, quality meats, quality seafood that's not high in metals and toxins. And he said, you can just ignore your cholesterol numbers the rest of your life. I'm like, really? I mean, that's so hard for me to.
I think my grandmother's was.
It's hard for me to believe.
I think my grandmother's was probably in the 400s. She was robust. She lived till 98. She cooked everything with lard, as I do.
Right.
Yeah, I think that we don't want the oxidized cholesterol that can build up the plaque, which can be due to the sugars. Just keep the sugar out, and the cholesterol is quite happy to turn into hormones. And even in my practice, women coming in, fertility and hormonal issues. Before, you used to go to bioidenticals or try to do herbs to help build up their adrenal gland dysfunction. And frankly, a lot of that, even the thyroid and adrenals, they all work with your metabolism. And some of them are overworking due to lack of cellular energy. So let's get that cellular energy back and give them a break so they can rebuild. But also let's get that cholesterol so you can actually make your own hormones as you used to before it became unusable. So over a while, I give them at least 4 months. And if at that time they still need some assistance, come in then. But start out with the basics. Start out with 101. Give your body a chance to do what it's supposed to do.
So would you say for a person of average health that's not having, any acute or chronic challenges, that if they were to get their deuterium tested, to drink the depleted water, say for 4 months, to do their best to stay on the rest of the protocol, not eating sugar, carbs, fruit, all that kind of stuff, processed food, supplements, all that, is it pretty much a guarantee that every person's going to get down below the safe threshold of deuterium, or are some people super finicky and they take much longer? Or what's kind of the time frame of getting in the
within
sweet spot?
Within 4 to 6 weeks, in the pre and the post, we see people coming down into the sweet spot.
Wow.
There's a few people that don't.
God, that's fast.
But a lot of those, I think, are our clients who do really well and they eat out every night at the restaurant and drink their champagne and they want to continue their lifestyle. Lifestyle. And okay, so we can help them live that lifestyle without having all that damage that comes with it. But most people do come down. That's what's the beauty about this. People say to me, and what's in this water that makes it so special? So I'd say it's not what's in the water, it's what's not in the water. And sadly, almost all waters are rather high in deuterium in the world we live in now. So listen, everybody needs to get their deuterium levels tested because it's the 101 place to start to avoid bad stuff from happening and to live a great life. The second part is everybody actually now in these days has to take some form of action to get their deuterium levels into the zone, into the desired range. And sadly, it's not really going to happen. Even eating well and doing all these great things, you saw that yourself. How you live, and it was good. Dr. Boros said it's not your fault. It's really not our fault. We just live in 2018 in a world where just environmental reasons have caused the world to be high in deuterium, and that's why the numbers have risen with all these chronic conditions. This is why. This is the connection. So let's not ignore it. And
going back to pre-agriculture and way pre-industrialization and just toxifying the environment and as a result our bodies, this wouldn't have been an issue if we were cavemen. I mean, right? We would have not built up this deuterium over that threshold where our body now has that catch-22 of not having the energy to deplete it. We would have had the energy, and we'd take on deuterium with certain foods and through the air and through certain waters, but you would just be depleting it all the time.
Yes.
Because
your natural mechanism were kicking in. They weren't bombarded with, slowing everything down. Who knows how long they lived? I mean, they came across fighting each other and, killing each other, I guess, or a bear came along, or they got infections, right? But they weren't dying from these slow. That's pretty quick usually, right? They weren't living this last part of their life in fear of how they're going to stay out of a nursing home and fear of how they're going to make. Even my friend the other day said, well, because people can live longer with this. She's like, well, we're going to outlive our wallet. I'm like, no. You're going to have the brains and the mindset and the focus and the motivation to continually learn and do new things and be productive in your life. So you're still going to earn money. So, everybody says life's too short. Maybe it doesn't have to be, and maybe you can do all those other things. You have one. Everybody wants a few careers nowadays, right? Yeah. Maybe you're going to have time and the ability and the energy to continue on, and
Well, I'll
share
tell you what,
share all your wisdom.
If I had to choose between dying of grizzly attack versus Alzheimer's, you know what I'm picking. Give me the grizzly. But now, luckily, we're I'm in this safe house in the middle of Los Angeles. There's no outside forces coming to get me, but there are environmental factors, and those are the things that lead to these metabolic diseases. So let's cover a little bit more of the food, because I think this was a hard one for me to get my head around, especially having come back from the early days of my health journey in the late 90s and 2000s, where it was all about eating raw vegetables and raw fruit and avoiding meat and avoiding fat and all of that, especially the fruit piece. I think this is a challenge for a lot of people, because you have the old school health experts like David Wolf, who's been on the show, who's all about eating tons of fruit. You've got people like the medical medium that says the answer to everything is just eating raw fruits and vegetables. The raw foodist movement kind of died out because, frankly, I think a lot of those people ended up having some health challenges as a result of that long term. But now there's this sort of resurgence of going back to high fruit and things like that. So how could fruit possibly be bad for you? I think is what my question is.
I actually, my chiropractor early on, when I was pretty much explained to me that I was a little bit of a sugar. I was getting a bit addicted to sugar actually in my 20s. And I was like, I have to get in my car at 4 o'clock and go buy chocolate? How pathetic. You have no willpower. Yeah. So I really wanted to get off this, and it was just the sugar. It was like that brain connection with the sugar. So I actually stopped eating fruit a long time ago, more than most people did. I didn't know why. I thought I'd stop eating fruit because of the cravings and the sugar. But now we know that in plants, we have the mitochondria in our body to kind of keep deuterium away. In plants, they have the chloroplast, and that's always pushing the deuterium out of the green part into the fruit.
Wow.
Now we know why. We all knew eat greens, that's good for you. Right. Now we can explain why. We can explain that green foods are good for you because they push the deuterium out, so you're not consuming so much deuterium.
Wow.
Sadly, they push it into the really yummy part, which is the fruit, which we're kind of addicted to.
Yeah.
But that's what's really important about sweet stuff. Once you taste it, it takes over all your other taste buds, and you don't appreciate any other tastes anymore, and that's all that you want. So for people out there who are like, oh, damn her, I can't eat sugar, hate her, just know that once you can get through it, even if it's a few days, after you do, believe it or not, you do lose your desire for it. You don't crave it so much when you stay away from it.
I'm waiting for that to happen to me.
Really?
Well, when I first started drinking bulletproof coffee and just becoming ketogenic and high fat, but I didn't even know what that was, but it just happened because I was eating all these good fats first thing in the morning. I have the brain octane oil, which is a C8 MCT made from coconut oil, and then grass-fed butter. And I was like, oh my God, I don't feel like eating all day. And
it definitely satiates you and your brain.
I had those ketones that I was using for fuel rather than glucose all of a sudden. And over the course of a few months, I thought, wow, this is weird. It's really easy to not eat bread, crackers, chips, all those like carby snacks, and then also just straight up sugar. But then it's almost like I got sort of adapted to the high-fat diet to where I'm still eating all the fats, but now I'll still get sugar cravings, too. And I'm like, oh, this is really bad, because you're definitely not supposed to eat a high-fat diet and then pour a bunch of glucose on top of it. It's potentially fairly dangerous. The only thing that I can account for that perhaps happening based on my research is the presence of parasites. And I do have parasites currently. I'm working on that. And I've heard from multiple sources that are experts on parasites that it's not you craving the sugar, it's the bugs in your gut that are craving the sugar.
Yeast does that for sure also. If you have yeast overgrowth candida, it just requires it to grow. But actually what they are really requiring to grow is deuterium. Deuterium makes things grow. It actually is what ages us. Children and teenagers need deuterium to grow. After a certain age, we're not growing up anymore, so we start to grow out if the deuterium levels are kept going. But bacteria, fungus, viruses, parasites, they require deuterium to grow. So even in my functional medicine practice, we would always go in with test their hormones, test their gut bacteria, test for parasites. I don't do that in the beginning anymore. I deplete their deuterium. I take away the fuel source for all of these things, come back in later and see what's really going on now that they don't have the fuel.
Oh, that's fascinating. I'm so excited to do this depletion protocol.
And then get your test done. And really,
and then not only test the deuterium levels again, but then go back and test the gut biome and see what's happening there. Because again, going back to this metabolic energy, we've been exposed to molds, viruses, bacteria, worms, parasites, all of this. That would exist in nature. We'd be fighting that stuff off, but we would have the energy to fight it off. Yeah. Right? When the immune system's compromised, then you have an invader in food or water, such as a various pathogen. And
it's an overload.
Right? And your body's like, sorry, we don't have the energy. We're just going to let that parasite burrow in and start reproducing. And next thing you know, you're making Haagen-Dazs runs at midnight every night, kicking yourself in the ass for a lack of willpower when it's those damn parasites.
That's what's great.
Roundworms in your guts going like, give me sugar. And on a full moon, the parasites will make you do weird stuff. I mean, it's it's fascinating. When I was just in Tahoe, I interviewed Dr. Deborah Drake, who's kind of, the doctor behind Amp Coil. And oh my God, she's just such a vast wealth of knowledge about parasites and the gut biome and stuff. And the thing she was telling me how, the parasites get into your thyroid, and then there's this cascade effect of this thing and that thing. And it was so fascinating. It became clear to me that it's one of the first lines of defense is getting the bugs out of you. But now I'm agreeing with you. I think let's get the metabolic energy taken care of first. Then
fuel. Remove their fuel.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's right. And removing their fuel, which is this deuterium. Wow. That's a fascinating connection.
I talked to Dr. Boros about this to really try to figure this out, because all of us are really trying to figure out the gut and things like that. And I was always trying to find what's the best stool test. I've got doctors who are in Vietnam who become specialists, and now they do all the DNA tests and everything. And Dr. Boros just explained, listen, just take away the fuel, and even some of those tests may or may not be that valid based upon the deuterium levels. So these guys deal with a lot of really serious stuff. Yeah. And I thought if it works for them, let's just help me get all the people I've met, the biggest, wealthy, the rock stars, they all still want more energy. But so does mum, who's trying to get her kids through the day, and so does just the general public. They all want more energy to have a better life. So my goal is to just really, we'll still work, and these doctors will always research and help really serious cases. But I'm really focusing on fatigue and energy, and just energy for a better you, just helping people to be better, have more fun, live a better life, and not worry. People are in pain, in inflammation, but they're in pain of worrying, and they just don't have energy. That's painful. Oh my God, I can't do for my kids what I should be doing for them, And then they have fear of, how am I going to keep going at this rate and still provide for my family? And what's going to happen to me? And where am I going to end up if I get sick? And all these things. And this is the solution. That's what's so great. This is the solution. Just measure your deuterium, deplete it so your body has the energy. You don't have to worry about all these things.
What are some of the other foods that are high in deuterium?
Well, processed foods are high in deuterium. Carbohydrates are high in deuterium. Starchy carbohydrates, things that are underneath the ground, potatoes, yams,
What about beets?
Beets are high because
Oh.
beets have good qualities to it, but
Yeah, but they are
but
high
essentially in the
deuterium.
beginning you need to lower your deuterium levels. Now, once you get your deuterium levels into a more acceptable range, then you can handle stuff occasionally.
Right.
You know, you don't want to bombard yourself you don't want to get it low and then push it back in again.
Right.
But if you can get your mechanisms working again, have some chocolate cake. Have something, unless it messes with your, cravings and stuff. You know, some people can't have a little bit and they're done for.
Well,
but
I think that's...
I can. You know,
You can moderate?
I always can, actually.
Yeah,
I can just have a little bite and then that was good. I fixed that.
God, I was not born with the power of moderation. Yeah.
Okay,
So for me, it's just with a lot of things, it's black and white. It's like, okay, I had to quit that. Like I want to punch someone who I see smoking a cigarette. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you smoke. You're like, oh, I have a cigarette like once a month. I'm like, you bastard. Like, how do you do that? I'm full on. I'm going to smoke. I'm going to chain smoke all day long, wake up in the middle of the night, have a cigarette when I take a leak. Like, I'm freaking obsessed.
Yeah, I know. Some people do have that.
But it is comforting because when I interviewed the guys about this, I mean, I walked away going, oh my God, can I do this? I can never have a mango ever again. Or
that's sad.
It's like, oh God, it's almost one of those things. I need to unlearn what I just learned from these guys because it sounds so restrictive.
Nobody wants to hear that, and also that may push people away that could really benefit from this. So I don't want to be that, food strict person. In fact, you can kind of compensate and rectify a lot of things once you learn how. If you do happen to go out and eat a big bowl of pasta, then fast the next day, so your body can burn that deuterium up, right? Right. I tell people, yes, this deuterium depleted water is fantastic, but if you eat that cookie, it's going to cost you $50 in water to remove it.
Right.
So,
right.
But in the beginning, I mean, for wellness people, my own sister did it perfectly though. She just made sense to her and she did it, and she had amazing results with weight. She had a very serious job that she was making some mistakes on, her cognition, her focus. She had an MRI done because of severe migraines, fear of a tumor. Mm-hmm. They went away. Lots of amazing things. Her boss now calls her in when they hire someone new. Tell them how to eat so they can handle this job. Some people just get it and they go for it. For people who are ill, this is not really, it's a therapeutic diet. This is you have to do it right. It's worth doing it right. You will respond if you do it right, because on the other end, people actually come out of pretty serious situations even better than when they got into it. And I've seen it. I've seen patients come in like really in really pretty rough spaces, and they are better now than when we met them. And they are now able to put their focus on other things. They've gone through yes, this is what I have to do. This is what I need to do to have a therapeutic diet to recover from what's going on.
Right.
Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be forever.
Cool.
So a lot of our patients, they do it for the 4 months if they're wellness. Then their choice is they can get tested once a year and do a month a year if they need to, or they can just go on like a much lower ppm, or they can drink a cup a day. It depends what they choose to kind of maintain their levels and their lifestyle.
Cool. And the testing isn't even that expensive. I mean, it's on, what is it, a couple $100, $200-$300 or something?
Yeah, we've actually lowered the price. We've been able to now that we're getting more coming in. We're always trying to we want to make this affordable for everybody. Some of it may not be, but that's why we have a 360-degree approach. We have many methods for lowering deuterium, but a lot of people will just...
How much is the test at the time of this recording?
It's $375 for your pre and your post test.
Oh, cool.
So that was before it was like, $650 for both. Now it's $375 for both.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's because we want everybody. Everybody needs to do this, so we're just trying to get it going and make it affordable for as many people as they can. And honestly, people are prioritized. Once they learn about this, I had a 91-year-old man call me. And I'm so proud of him because I can barely use the internet. And he's like, I had pneumonia. I never want that again. I went searching how to not, get sick again, and he found us.
Oh, no way.
I'm so proud of you,
That's cool.
But what I'm really happy about, it is kind of like one of my concerns is in one of my job, what I'm so happy to be able to do is we have credibility, we have background, we have a lot of clinical experience, and we want to let people know that this is the real deal. And, I'm glad he found us because unfortunately people do go to the internet, and there's social media is a place where everybody can claim to be an expert, and there's people out there claiming to be America's leading health person, and
right.
So I just want people to understand that they can learn from the best.
Yeah.
They can learn from people who are serious scientists. And we're just grateful for the opportunity to let people know that, we have the background, and to just be careful about where you're getting your information from.
I'm going to get into a little of that in a moment, because I do, you start Googling around and you can find a lot of weird stuff. So
you can be led astray.
It's one of the things I wanted to cover. But before we move on from that, I just want to emphasize that, being someone that does a lot of functional medicine testing and things like this, that's a really good price for a test that has such a meaningful before and after potential.
Yes. Yep.
Some of the tests that I do are $300 or $400, and it's just, you do them a few times a year, and there's no way to really quantify what changed one test from the other.
Yeah.
So I might do some heavy metal testing, a blood test, which I really like, from Quicksilver Scientific. I think my insurance doesn't pay for it, even though I have like the best insurance available. There are just certain things they don't cover no matter what, such as this particular test. I think it's $375, and it's like, it's good information. Oh, damn, my mercury's super high, my lead's really high. Wow, I need to work on this. And then I work on it, but you don't really know a year later which things you did that got your metals down, especially if you're someone like me that's doing so many things. Whereas the test of your deuterium levels is, exactly what you did to get it down.
Yes.
You ate a ketogenic diet, or the specific deuterium depleted ketogenic diet. You did the water for a period of time. You did the mask. You did the other interventions that are recommended. And then you watch those numbers drop. To me, when you can gamify something and you can quantify the results, that's what helps with compliance and discipline.
Very
so
much
now I'm in the grocery store and I'm like, oh, hell no. I just got my deuterium down from 146 to 123.
I'm not going to mess with that.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm good. I don't need that papaya right now.
It really does help with your mindset.
It does.
And it helps you to be, it helps to maintain willpower.
It does.
You don't even need willpower, because it makes too much sense. You're making educated choices rather than taste bud choices.
And with the test within that price range, it's totally doable. And what I have found also is that, now I didn't take the direction of Dr. Boros, who I don't know if it was during the interview or after, but maybe it was after. He goes, I don't know if you're aware of this, but you have an obsession with supplements. Like, I think you're addicted to supplements. And I went, guilty as charged. Yeah, I used to be a drug addict. Now I'm not. Now I am totally addicted to taking supplements. And he told me, you need to stop for 30 days. And I was like, that's awesome. Great idea. I'm totally going to do that. Woke up the next morning. I think 1 or 2 days I didn't take my supplements. And then I was like, I can't do it. And he's right. I'm addicted. So I haven't been able to stop. But what I would say to anyone listening who's, the finances are an issue, money is, a possible barrier to entry here, is that you could take that $375 or whatever for your deuterium before and after test, quit all your supplements, which, most people I know that aren't even as obsessed as me are spending $100 to a couple $100 a month on supplements. I would venture to say you could probably quit most of those, eat the recommended diet, spend that money on the test and then on the depleted water.
And on your food sources.
Right?
Which is what I've done. Yeah, I was like that because we study this, and this makes sense, and I'll take these herbs and I'll do this, and you want to be healthy. Let's do as much as you can.
Right.
But many of our patients have said, "Oh, I spend so many on supplements each month." And they've said they're getting their health back, and even honestly, functional medicine practitioners that I talk to about this, they say, "Yeah, I've got them on all these things, and it's still not working."
Yeah.
And they're sick of me, and they're losing patients because they're sick of buying pills, the expense. They're sick of taking pills, and they're sick of not feeling any better, and they're losing their patients' confidence. And these doctors now, they can go in, start with this. Patients feel better quickly, have more faith, more confidence, send more people to them, and the doctors end up with stronger, healthier, more robust, more happy patients. It's pretty good for practitioners as well as...
Cool. Okay, and then for those of you listening, we're, of course, going to link to ddcenters.com, where you can order these tests, and you can order the deuterium depleted water, which I want to go into a little bit more. And to get all of these links, you guys, when you're listening, I'm sure if you're like me, you're driving around, you're on the freeway, on the train, you're here, you're there, and you're like, oh, what's that site? I got to remember that. I got to write it down or screen grab or something. What I used to do with podcasts is I would screen grab the timestamp so that then, and I would text it to myself. So later on I could go back and listen to the podcast, fast forward to, 45 minutes and 32 seconds and then get that link. You guys don't have to do that. I'm going to send you the links from every single show, this one and others, if you just go to lukestory.com/newsletter. I want you guys to know that because I do that because I'm a podcast fan and listener, and I learn so much, and it's impossible to remember all of these links. So
thanks, Luke, for making it easy for everybody.
Well, it's important. Then it's in your email, and you're like, oh, I listened to that show. Cool. Here's the information on it, and then everything is clickable. I have the links to everything we talk about, and I pay my production team a lot of money to do those links and to make sure everything's accurate as a service to the listener. So you can find the test that we're referring to and all of that stuff if you subscribe to lukestory.com/newsletter. I'm really good about spam too. I'm not going to send you guys a bunch of crazy stuff. Don't worry about that. Unfortunately, I don't really have a lot to sell at the moment, but when I do, I might email you more. Right now, it's just like, hey, here's a new podcast. It's a lot of giving.
You're so generous. Sharing good information.
Well, it's all, I am sharing good information. I understand marketing too. You got to do 10 gives and then 1 ask. That's kind of always my thing, is give 10 times the value and then say, hey, I've got this thing if you want to buy it. Technically, I don't have anything to sell right now, so you're just going to get good content until I think of something to sell you guys. Halfway kidding. Okay, so we talked about the food. Then in terms of, and it's really reassuring to know, like, once I'm depleted or one is depleted down to a certain level, then, you can't go crazy and eat a bunch of McDonald's, but you could live a little once in a while.
Of course.
And then just...
And you should.
And then, psychologically, it's just healthier to not be totally weird and controlling about what you eat, I think. And then once a year, we can get tested if we're like, oh, shit, been eating too many apples...
keeps yourself
or
in check.
Cupcakes or whatever, then okay, I got to deplete again, and then when we see those results, it's going to make the compliance easier again, as we discussed. Okay, so
not just that though. As you do change, your brain does change. Really, a piece of cake might be put in front of you, and you may not even care one day.
Right.
You never know what's going to happen.
Well, that happened to me with things like cigarettes and alcohol and drugs. I mean, you could sit there with a bottle of vodka and be like, beg me all day to take a shot, and it's just like, I'm not interested. It
can happen.
Yeah, that's happened with junk food.
Yes.
I don't drive by Wendy's and be like, oh my God, a quarter pounder. I don't even know what they sell if they call them a quarter pounder. But I haven't eaten food like that in literally decades, and there's no temptation because I know the cost of that is so high. Okay, so I want to cover the water though. So there's this special water you guys sell, which is deuterium depleted. So there's different degrees of depletion. And from what I understand, the source of this water, it's originally spring water that was then like actual spring water, like I drink every day, and I'm a huge proponent of it. Then it goes through this crazy process in some machine that costs $1 zillion that lowers the deuterium past any water you would ever find in nature. Is that correct?
It is. Dr. Gabor Shomali, one of our co-founders, he's a physicist in Europe, and he's really the grandfather of deuterium depletion. He's been studying this and utilizing this for almost 30 years.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So that's why but he built the big plant that pulls, and it's a process, it's where they pull the deuterium out of the water. So it's a deuterium depleted water, which makes it very effective. It's in different ranges because there's a very specific process for certain patients with deuterium depletion, and it must be done properly, and that's why we chose to really make sure we share this with physicians so the word gets out correctly, and that's why we have chosen to use Dr. Gabor Shomali's plant, because other people will be doing it as soon as something comes out there, but we're serious scientists. We're only going to use this deuterium depleted water that has had all the clinical research and all the studies behind. It's the only GMP facility in the world that produces the deuterium depleted water. We want the word out properly. We don't want anybody doing the wrong thing. So even with patients, we take certain conditions, and everybody's treated individually based upon their age, their height, and their weight, a little bit of their history, what's been going on with them, and we track them and follow them along, and change their protocol along the way if necessary. So it's not something, some people are just telling people go drink this water at the inappropriate ppm, and they're just guzzling it, and it may not be the best thing for them to do.
Right. So the water that I started on is, I think, the general level, which is 85 parts per million deuterium, right?
Right.
And then there are varying degrees of depletion that would be sort of prescribed to someone based on other factors, such as their deuterium levels, their general health. So if I had come to you guys saying, hey, I got 3 months to live, I've got brain cancer, I probably would have started on the 25 water.
No, actually, that you would, and people do think, oh, the
sicker
more,
you are,
more
the lower
is better.
number?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not like that.
I'll try to explain it. There's a very specific step-down process for cancer patients. As you lower the deuterium levels, you want to make sure that those cells are not getting accustomed to that ppm range. Right?
Oh.
That they get used to living in that range, so that you don't want to go the lowest place, because then you've got nowhere to go. So there's and people are just sending people out. It's almost like antibiotics. You don't want to take 2 pills and forget to not take the rest, because bugs might then thrive in that environment. Is that a good way to explain it?
Yeah, totally.
So that's why we're training physicians. That's why we don't tell people, here, drink this. We want information about you. We get that information. If you're a wellness person, then it's a much more simple protocol. But if these people have a chronic condition, our scientists take care of them and manage them and make sure they're treated appropriately, and that they all have all of the other methods, the 360-degree approach, the therapeutic lifestyle, to get their health back.
So in terms of water in general, the audience that's heard me before, if this is your first episode, welcome. If you've been listening for a while, I'm obsessed with water. I don't know if it's because I'm a Scorpio or what, but bathing in natural hot springs, cold plunges in the middle of the forest, and freezing water, ice baths, drinking the most pure spring water, which, by the way, the spring water that I drink was tested by the labs here. And it's a 139. That's from livespringwater.com. My friend Makunde, I've been drinking his water forever. It comes from a pristine spring in Oregon. That's a pretty low number for
compared to other commercial sources or bottled waters,
right?
Things
so
like that,
if in 139, still not depleted, right? That it's
into what your physiological range should be,
right. So in terms of, a daily water to drink, once my levels are down, then I could resume drinking that 139 ppm water relatively safely.
As long as you consume really good fats to make your own deuterium depleted metabolic water, and as long as you don't push a bunch of it in with
Twinkies.
Stuff. Yeah.
Oreos.
Something. I don't
Oreos.
know. Yucky. None of them sound appealing to me.
Oh my God. Oreos? Are you kidding me?
No, don't get it.
Oreos
just
are stomach crack.
Just don't get it.
No, it's been a long time since I've eaten Oreos. For a while, I was doing like the Paul Newman's organic Oreos, and I thought, it still has gluten in it. It's still wrecking my gut. So onto the water. Have you guys tested, Pellegrino, Evian, Dasani? Have you tested any range of bottled waters?
Yes, we have tested many. I don't remember all of the numbers right here. And we have patients sending us all the time, something that they consume all the time. We have a lot of people sending us their well water.
Is that high?
Well, actually, I've told them, you can test it now, but you may want to test it in seasons, because summertime would be different than wintertime, because the wintertime their well is going to be coming from the snow that's melting.
Got it.
But the summertime, it may be a different ppm, but people love to do that, because this is great. People can actually take care of themselves.
Oh, it's amazing. I have another spring I go to in Big Bear. And those of you that are interested in finding the springs that I use, again, livespringwater.com, or you can go to lukestory.com/129. That's lukestory.com/129. And you can download my guide to water. And in there, I give you specs on locations of springs and all sorts of cool stuff. But I'm going to take some. I have my. Can I give you a sample of water today?
Of course.
Amazing. Because I do want to test my Big Bear spring. It's about 7,000 feet above sea level. It's been tested for everything else. It's very low mineral. It meets all the criteria that I like. It's very low TDS. There's no pathogens whatsoever. It's right on the side of the road. When you drive into Big Bear, you can stop and fill your car up.
Oh, great.
It's amazing. But I'm going to give you a sample of that to test it.
Let's test it.
I'm thinking it'll probably come in around the same as the live spring water. Just intuitively, I feel like the springs are on par in terms of their, their level of excellence. Is the data on other commercial waters going to be made available, or is it available at any time in any of your PDFs or any of that kind of stuff?
We can give the numbers. They may change due to even bottling. When they bottled, it may vary a little bit.
Right.
That's the thing. That's why, I know that Evian water was lower than most of them. I don't know the numbers, but I just know.
Right.
I'm giving Evian,
Yeah,
I just know. But I'd have to. We'll have to get to that point where we're going to see if it's a good idea to send this out to people based upon where the water was sourced at the timing it was sourced, when it was bottled, things like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
but testing is great. Even, Luke, we feel like we're sending right now lots of different foods in. We love your friends at Belcampo. We're sending all sorts of different foods.
Great.
We'll have people send us, from farms. They'll send us them.
Have you guys tested any of the fats or anything from Belcampo
farms? It's all been sent.
Amazing.
We actually had to collect a lot of different foods because one batch is better for us to send than tiny different batches. But supplement companies also eventually will want to test their supplements for deuterium levels in order to be able to be top of the line supplement.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, the TGA, the Therapeutic Goods Act in Australia, it's a very strict compliance to get high standards. So many supplement companies say, we abide by the TGA to, give people faith that they have really good processing and standards. But they could be making some things that are fabulous for you, have good benefits, but they may be processing it in a really high deuterium. The processing, and maybe. So eventually we're testing some that I like, but eventually that's what supplement companies are going to have to do. Actually, you asked me about the food, why GMOs is also probably one of the biggest reasons why we're accumulating. What foods is the package, the processed, and the carbohydrates, and the GMO foods, because GMOs are made to make things grow fast.
Right. And deuterium makes things grow fast.
Yeah. So the GMOs are high in foods are high in deuterium. So
I just posted on my Instagram today a little infographic of the highest GMO foods, and it was interesting. Papaya was on there.
Wow.
So I was like, I'd never even think of that. And I love papaya. I do too. I went to Hawaii when I was a kid, and that's the first time I ever had, fresh papaya.
It's different.
And it's just, ever since it's not like something I eat all the time, but if I find a good organic one, but I thought papaya, GMO, that's weird, right? Corn, soy, some of those that are more the commodity foods that are kept in big bins in Kansas when you drive through there. Those are all GMO, but I was like, papayas they got too. I'm like, you bastards, this Franken food. But, they say if you eat food that has the USDA kind of organic stamp, that it's highly unlikely it would be infected with GMOs. That said, enter at your own risk when you're eating things that are on the sus. I mean, I don't think any corn personally or soy is good for you. That's just my opinion, whether it's GMO or not. But thank you for adding that bit in so people have an idea of what to avoid. We'll look forward, hopefully, to more commercial waters and things being tested. So at least if someone's traveling like myself in airports, it's always a dilemma. I was like, oh, God, what water am I going to pick? Because it all sucks.
That's true. But what is amazing, Luke,
what?
is we all got into this, and I'm guilty of it too, telling everybody to drink more water. And we're learning that we're all eating too much, drinking too much, thinking too much, working too much. We're not sleeping and resting and enjoying enough. We need to do less, really, and we need to drink less water. Man went to the watering hole, he would have been eaten. Right, we've gotten to it's. They didn't drink water. They ate as much fat as they could. So with retraining, it's habitual.
Right.
If you're thirsty, wait a little bit. Wait 10 minutes to see if it subsides. And frankly, why water? I didn't touch it. I forget about it. I don't think about it so much because as you eat fat, 60% of our water is made inside our body from fat. We don't need. If you eat better, if you eat more good fats, you're going to produce this water.
That's so
you can hopefully go through an airport and not even have to worry about buying water. Buy a bar of butter instead.
Yeah, right. I've smuggled butter on the airplane before, and I'm sitting there eating ghee, and I'm eating scoops of butter, and the person next to me is going like, you maniac.
I think you're allowed to. Is it smuggling? I've taken food on the airplane.
I mean, not smuggling. I'm saying smuggling because I wrap it in tin foil so it doesn't get irradiated. I'm a disaster when it comes to travel. It's a whole spectacle. But the reason that the water in the airports is important to me is because I take a number of supplements to mitigate the effects, the ill effects of being in an airplane, like my vital reaction, hydrogen tabs and stuff like that. So I usually buy Avion, and to me, just intuitively, it's in a hard plastic bottle. It's more inert, less leaching going on, and it comes from an aquifer, technically not a spring, which is less than ideal, spring being the most ideal. But compared to the other waters typically that are available in an airport, I think that's the best source. So people often ask me about that. So we can look forward to maybe a bit more research on some of the different waters. If people at home are on a well or on municipal water that's hopefully, for God help us, being filtered extensively. I would not drink any form of tap water that's not like heavily filtered. Again, lukestory.com/129. I'll recommend all my top filters and stuff. But what I'd recommend to people is if you're drinking your municipal water, filtered or not, hopefully it is, that you could send the water in, a sample in, and have it tested.
Then they'll know.
Yeah, and then, you can have another intervention. Like my mom, who I told you about, lives in Sonoma County, and I just went to visit her, and she has late-stage Lyme disease forever. I'm working with her with the AMP coil. And I didn't want to overload her with too much at once. I just wanted to show up there with the AMP coil and just teach her how to use that and not bitch about her food or water or try to be controlling with her in any way, because it would have overwhelmed her.
Sure.
And I'm like, hey, Mom, just curious, what are you drinking for water? And she's like, oh, I have a filter. And I'm like, oh, God. And she had a decent, like one of those jug type filters, but I didn't say anything. I was like, oh, that's great. And inside I'm like dying, my codependent / caring, controlling self. Like, oh my God, I got to do something about her water. She had a shitty filter, but even if she had the best filter ever, it's likely that the municipal water in her town is going to be super high in deuterium, right?
You can't filter out the deuterium.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
No matter what toxin.
We have people sending us all these things that they're doing, and we're like, that's nice, but it's not. It's not going to make it. It's not going to make it therapeutically beneficial. Maybe it's deuterium depleted because it's 1 ppm lower. Yes, okay, that means it's deuterium depleted. It's not going to make any change.
Right.
And, people are doing all sorts of, good for them. They're trying, but we're also trying to let people know, maybe put your efforts into this instead. This might be a better way for you to.
Well, you could take, if you get a proper whole house filter, you're looking at $1,000 to $3,000. If you're looking at a proper under the sink filter that really works, that's really good, like from Omica or Pristine Hydro or Ophora Water in Santa Barbara, you're looking at $800 to $2,000 for under sink. But you could take that same money and just buy yourself, a few months supply of deuterium depleted water, get on that, and then get on some good spring water at home. So ultimately, the conclusion of the story with Mom is I just shut up and waited for a solution. And last night I was like, wait a minute, I think Live Spring Water delivers in my mom's area. Texted Makunde, the owner. He's like, yeah, that's our biggest market is Sonoma County. No problem. We'll hook your mom up. So problem solved. She's going to get on the 139 parts per million until I get her feeling good enough where I can convince her to do the deuterium depletion protocol.
I take it home in a suitcase when I go home to my mum.
Well, that's what's funny is
I lug it there because, it's heavy.
I only see you drinking the depleted water every time you're over, and now I'm just going to stop offering you tea and coffee because you're like, no, I have my own water.
I actually never drank coffee anyway. I always had plenty of energy, too much, but then...
Do you only drink the deuterium depleted water now?
Yeah, and I drink even less water.
Right, because of what
I
we were just
actually
talking
always
about.
really only drank water. I never drank coffee or tea. That was my thing. I really only drank water anyway, so that's not a big change for me. But
and then what about we could say it's likely that if you're drinking any sort of tap derived water that it's going to be high in deuterium, even if it's filtered, because it filters and take it out. No. High quality spring water is going to be pretty low in most cases. What about, because this is what was interesting when I went on the protocol, is you guys are like, yeah, no more bottled drinks, because guess what? Those are all made with tap water that's really high deuterium. So I've not had any kombucha. Yeah. I've not had any sort of tasty drinks from the health food store, anything like that. I have not had anything except this water.
We have to retest you soon, but that's what's really important for people to know. Yeah. This is the basics. This is extremely important. This will determine how your body's going to go in this world, this way or this way. Mm-hmm. So is it worth it or not? Do you really need to drink that stuff?
Well, what's funny, what I realized is a couple things is that, oh my God, I must have been spending a fortune on stupid bottled drinks at the health food store.
People are spending a fortune on juicing.
Yeah. And, I buy like a $14 juice or something. And then I buy a $6 kombucha and this and that. And since I'm like on this particular protocol right now, I've just let all that go. I go, oh my God, I've probably been drinking a lot of deuterium thinking I was being healthy. A, B, I'm wasting so much money.
It's very freeing, Luke, when you get down to the basics. You go, oh, I don't have to do all these other things that I was doing to try to be healthy, when this is the essential thing to know.
Right.
Makes it simple.
So right now, when you heard someone knock on my door, that was some sort of shipping company delivering my fresh box of Arizona grass-raised beef bone broth. It's sent frozen. I've searched the world over for the highest quality bone broth. There are others that I like, Kettle and Fire, other ones, by the way, if you're listening, that are less expensive, shelf stable, that are also quality. But this stuff is like the chronic bone broth. And I've been, I drink it 4 quarts of it a week, I think I get, and which is quite a lot, but it does my body good. But then I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, it's triple filtered water. I grilled the owner. I interviewed him a while ago and I'm like, where's the water come from? He's like, let me check. It's triple filter, reverse osmosis, this and that. Originally it's well water that then they filter. And so I'm drinking my bone broth and I was like, oh shit, this still has water in it. And I'm on the deuterium depleted protocol. So it's safe to say that even soups and things like that are made with, if you see the ingredients, it says water or filtered water, that it's likely that that's also high in deuterium. So if one is in the process of depletion, which I currently am, would they be generally advised to avoid soups and broths and things that are also made with tap water ultimately?
If you were really ill, yes, definitely. If you were really ill and if you were fighting for your life and you needed all this cellular energy to regain your health back, no, you would have a therapeutic diet and you wouldn't be consuming stuff that was made with deuterium depleted water, deuterium-laden water.
Yeah.
You're healthy, your numbers are a bit high, but it's not at that range where you have a really metabolic dysfunction. And you're also doing something to counteract it by consuming the water and by increasing your fat intake.
Right.
If you were ill, I would say no. But you're as soon as we test you, I know your numbers are going to be in a good range, even by doing that. And I tell our patients, listen, just consume this water only. If you want to make coffee or tea, make it with the lid on so you're not boiling it off. But soups and stuff like that, it gets expensive. So let's do the best we can.
So be reasonable about it. What I do when I make coffee is I'll use the 85 parts per million depleted water. And I do about half that and then half my spring water.
Right.
And I'll do that if I make a smoothie or an elixir or something like that. So I know at least it's not deuterium heavy. It's still going to be depleted.
That 85 ppm is going to bring your levels down. It's giving you it's giving you quite a bit of room for fun.
Okay, good. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. Be like, yes, Luke, no bone broth.
Because we want you below 130 ppm and lower even. And we're seeing that. I mean, we're seeing really amazing.
What's the lowest number you've seen someone achieve after a stint of depletion?
We have athletes that are in their 70s.
What?
Athletes are really...
Oh my God, I want that.
We actually have, we've put together a clinical study on a major professional athlete who's done incredibly well. He was retired from a multi-million-dollar contract because got sick from overdoing it.
Wow.
And his physician was trained in what we do, and we've just done a study on him, and people will be able to see that.
Are they going to be able to will you be able to use his name, by the way, when you put it out, or is it going to be like,
Highly likely if he gives permission.
Oh, cool.
Highly likely. He's just so amazed that he got his life back. And
because that's meaningful when someone sees, a sports star, a really high performance person, actor, celebrity or something, and it's great for a company, of course, when you can use their name and say, hey, such and such person was here and now they're there. It's inspirational for people. So
it's funny. And I respect some of our cancer patients, they don't want to be, they've come so far, but still, they're careful in telling their story. I don't know if they're worried if they put it out or how they look, things like that. But we have a lot of people telling us via email, but actually putting their face on it is sometimes a little bit more difficult for some people.
Well, hopefully one of these star athletes lets you.
He probably will, but I don't know, so I don't want to say anything.
It's cool. It's cool.
His privacy.
We'll wait. So you talked a little bit about, when a company makes supplements, that it's likely that if they're synthetic, they're going to be higher in deuterium, and that I wanted to just re-emphasize that if there are people listening, entrepreneurs, people that are into health and wellness, I would think that as this emerges as a viable health issue and a health intervention, that this is going to be a great marketing ploy, not a ploy in a negative sense, but a marketing tool that a company can say, hey, we test to the highest standards, because many companies do that make herbs and things. We test for mold, metals, bacteria, pathogens, etc. I always look for that when I'm buying a supplement. But no one in the known universe, to my knowledge, has come out and say, hey, this supplement, whether it be pill, powder, whatever, is low in deuterium. So
it will happen.
Isn't that going to be cool?
All these companies want to do the right thing. They want to provide something that's going to benefit mankind. They just didn't know about this part of it. So this is great.
Yeah.
They're going to learn, and it's going to benefit everybody.
In terms of just a basic rule of thumb, if someone did want to still take herbs and supplements and things like that, is it safe to say that if something is more in its natural state, or an extract of, say, a medicinal mushroom or ashwagandha or something like that, an Ayurvedic or Chinese herb, that if it's a plant-based extract, that it's less likely to have deuterium versus a synthetic vitamin B or something like that?
It's highly likely, because it's often going to be plant-based.
Okay.
Right? Herbs are, God's gift from nature to us.
Right.
However, as we process them, if we process them in high deuterium water, you will be adding deuterium to that, that pill or that however capsule, however it comes.
Right.
So
I think about that, because
that's why I hold off. Now.
With some of my extracts that are in a little dropper, they're often made with water will be one of the ingredients, and then they have vegetable glycerin, which is very nebulous. Some glycerin's safe, some not. Some of it's a byproduct from other industries. It gets gnarly. But now I'm starting to become aware of that. I go like, oh, what does that mean when it says it has alcohol or water or glycerin as a carrier, or just something to give it some bulk? So it's interesting. But
it's good you're thinking that way, though. You're thinking.
Sure. I am,
yeah.
because now I have a sense of responsibility too, because I have things on my website I don't sell, but things I recommend, and I'm giving various products the stamp of my approval, and so it's not just, for me, because I'm sort of reckless with myself sometimes, to be honest, but I never want to recommend anything until I know that it's the best of the best in its class.
That's great.
So
listen, even in my practice, when I started this, patients didn't need me anymore.
You put yourself
People
out of business.
are coming in with pain and they're feeling good. Now they come for maintenance, and that's okay. I'm very fortunate. I loved it. I loved having this. It's kind of a little bit selfish. You get this instant gratification from your patients. I feel good. That's part of why you enjoy doing this job. Right. But this is bigger. This is really fun. This is really important. And I'm really appreciating being able to share this.
I am too. So in terms of animals, I wanted to cover this. I went into it, I think, a little bit with the guys in Q's history in Austin when he was working with cancer dogs.
Keto Pet Sanctuary.
Keto Pet Sanctuary. He talked a little bit about it, but then we moved. There were so many things to cover, but I've been exclusively giving my dog Cookie over here the deuterium depleted water. Now, we took a trip, and she was drinking the water of the other dog where we were staying, and so I was annoyed by that, but I had let it slide. But she's been doing the depleted water, and I've got to say there's one definitive difference I've noticed with her. Her allergies, her sneezing and scratching has dramatically improved, and I haven't done much else. I've been feeding her the same great raw, crazy, amazing raw local food, which is keto food. There's no grains or anything undog friendly in it. And
the fat will help that also. When I came in, I could see she was biting a little bit.
She was just a little. God damn it! There goes my theory.
But no, it will.
She's gotten a lot better.
Yeah, she will.
So, would you advise, in addition to giving her the water, that I even add a little fat to her food?
I would add it slowly so it doesn't create diarrhea all quickly.
Right, because I've done that. Before I give my dog too much ghee or butter or coconut oil or something, and then they get the runs.
So
and
just
problematic.
Just increase it incrementally, slowly. So that won't happen.
Right.
But yes, Dr. Q was the co-founder of the Keto Pet Sanctuary, where they took 100 dogs with naturally occurring cancers, and he treated them with his ketogenic at the time. Now he's learned it needs to be a deuterium depleting diet and deuterium depleted water and some other methods, and successfully, dogs did not get metastasis or die from cancer.
That's incredible. I love that story. Is it possible to test your pet for their levels, or
We have vets actually that test the urine.
Oh,
Yeah,
they can do the
we can
urine,
test
because
the
I was
urine,
thinking
yeah.
about, how do you get the breath test?
No, we have
Or
vets.
the saliva
We have
from a
vets
dog?
who've had dogs who, the little smaller dogs do better because it's less expensive to give them the deuterium depleted water than the big
Yeah,
dogs.
because like a Great Dane is going to drink a freaking
So the
half
smaller
a
dogs
liter
have
a
done
day.
well. But Dr. Q mostly did it with his ketogenic diet. I mean, that was because the dogs couldn't drive to McDonald's and eat anything else. They could only eat, they were very compliant with their program.
A control group, a controlled study, yeah.
Yeah, but he's really did all the clinical research on the benefits, on the ketogenic diet, and that's why the people that funded him decided this is going to become the most famous diet, and their whole social media program made it so.
Wow.
But now, once he met Dr. Boros, and Dr. Q used to make these ketogenic meals to be shipped nationwide for cancer patients because they're too sick, they're too ill, and they had to have the right proportions. But that's all gone away because now he realized it has to be a deuterium depleting keto therapeutic diet. So it's all changing a little bit. So our job now is actually kind of to get out there and rectify some of the information that's out there by some people who are not necessarily the experts but are sharing information on the famous ketogenic diet. We want to make sure it's out there properly. Yeah.
In terms of pets and animals, as it's safe to say that the vast majority of humans living today are going to have very high levels of deuterium, would this be true also in the world of pets? I mean, are people's cats and dogs going to be high because they've been fed grains and
almost all dogs get
stuff
cancer.
like this?
That's what they die from. Most dogs die from cancer.
Right.
Our dogs all died from cancer because our parents had enough kids to feed, let alone dogs. They were fed Pal out of the can. I remember seeing tumours all over the abdomen of our dogs. So people love their pets. They need to learn how to feed them in a deuterium depleting way. It may cost you a little bit more, but they're children to a lot of people now.
Oh, I'm obsessed with my dog.
They
like,
want to know.
It's ridiculous.
Actually, Preventer, Dr. Gabor Shomali in Hungary, his Preventer water is actually a drug for animals. It's a cancer drug. It's made
the water?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Damn, that's cool. So can I just feed cookie depleted water exclusively indefinitely, or would that get weird? I mean, should I do it for a period of time? And
we would get you on a very, very low ppm where you would actually just dilute it with regular water.
Okay.
Just, every now and then we test cookies levels, but you're
'Cause
going to have Cookie on such a good diet that it's not going to be...
Oh, I feel almost guilty because her diet is probably better than the vast majority of humans living on the planet today in third world countries and stuff. But hey, she's karmically, I guess, has arrived here with that privilege. Yeah. So right now I'm giving her the 85 water. Can I just keep doing that undiluted, or is that...
I would probably dilute it. She probably doesn't
aggressive?
need to be. Yeah, it's probably unnecessary. It's probably not that necessary.
Overkill and a waste of money. Because the water is relatively expensive.
When you think about it, I have this conversation every day with people.
Because that's the thing where I'm already getting pushback from people like, what? Couple $100 for what? They don't get it because they think that it's just... They understand that it's not just water. It's a therapeutic, medicinal water that's going to replace all your supplements. But maybe give us a little bit on that.
Well, because I am talking to ill people and they've pretty much tried and they're, I get, wow, that's much for water. I just say, you're not purchasing water. It only comes in the form of water. Luckily, it's easier to take. It doesn't have side effects. But you're actually purchasing the ability of all of your cells to function as they did 15, 20 years ago. You're purchasing the ability of your immune system to function as it did when you were younger, when it was much more able to produce natural killer cells and go out and, eat up cancer cells and eat up inflammation and infections.
Right.
It's kind of priceless in a way. Well, it is priceless. And if it came in the form of a pill, it would be tens of thousands of dollars. I just have to help people get their priority around what this is.
Yeah.
And me personally, when I got fatigue, I had trouble working. I bounced back. Got back into making money so much, rather than... I would have paid way more for it, for what I got out of it. So it's just, I have to really explain properly what it is, what it's doing to your body, and then they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It's really worth it for me to do this. This is the most important thing that I need to do, and whatever it takes, I'm going to make this happen.
Right.
That's what's happening a lot. I mean, we are not getting many people saying, I'm not going to do that.
I mean, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, if I quit all the supplements, I'd be living large. I'd be like, oh, this water's nothing.
Yeah.
But because I haven't stopped spending in those other areas, it's like, oh, this is a little added expense that I need to account for on a monthly basis.
You're just having trouble letting go of those things, but hopefully just
Yeah.
learning more, reiterating that this is 101. This is how your body's really going to get the cellular energy, so you don't have to chase stuff with all these supplements. And in fact, that's a lot of effort for your body to break them down also.
You mentioned that earlier, and you know what? I've never thought about that. To me,
your body has to deal with
I
that.
always think of this radical load of supplementation that I typically ingest, in that, oh, I'm just giving my body all this extra stuff, but I never thought about the cost of the processing of the body, identifying what that is, utilizing
Mass
all
confusion going on
right?
in there.
I mean, and just today, the amount of stuff I took, I was actually feeling a little weird. I went to my Kundalini yoga class and I was like, whoa, damn, I took a lot of, not really supplements, but even just plant-derived things.
On an empty stomach, sometimes it's a bit much.
Yeah, I do it on an empty stomach on purpose.
Yeah.
But I took such a combination of things today, mostly natural, but also just so many different things, and there's no telling how those interactions are. Now, I feel pretty great now, but earlier today I was like, wow, this is intense. I don't feel entirely myself. It was like mind-altering.
You may need to pick a few in the beginning just to wean yourself down. Yeah. We may have to talk. We can talk and say, listen, okay, this might be something that's going to be important for now, and just let this go. It's not really benefiting from it. It's kind of unnecessary. It might even be messing you up. We can go through that.
I think that would be good. Well, today I did three things that were potentially psychoactive. And I wouldn't say that I was high today because I don't get high. I'm very careful to not pass that threshold, but I did microdose psilocybin. I mean, very, very, when I say micro, I'm not like, oh, half a gram. No, like 1/10 of a gram, which is not enough to get, maybe Cookie would get high off that, but no adult human would. It's just impossible to get mind altering noticeably. And then also did a lot of CBD without THC, a few droppers of that. And then also a microdose of a CBD made from cannabis, not hemp, that does have THC, which I'm very careful about taking a small dose. So there was those two. And then also I did a little bit of kratom, or some people call kratom, which is a leaf that's just ground up from Southeast Asia, which does potentially have psychoactive and actually pain-killing capacities. But again, in a microdose, not psychoactive, not mind-altering. But a few of those things plus a few supplements changes the way you feel. And then you get in a Kundalini yoga class, and then I went to cryo. And after that whole experience and having ingested all of those sort of, somewhat powerful elements, I definitely felt interesting.
Bliss?
Yeah, I feel
bliss.
good, happy, yeah, for sure. But at certain points, going like, this is interesting. I feel different. I mean, I've altered the way that I feel.
But you got up with the intention of changing, like, why? Why all of those things? I mean, I understand yoga and all those things, but why? What was the purpose? Why were you?
Because I love to experiment on myself.
All right, experiment.
It's sort of curiosity. It's like, well, I know what it feels like to take this one thing. I know what it feels like to take one thing, two things, three things. What about if I add this fourth? Let me see how that goes.
Okay, you really are experimenting. You're and then you're listening and you're seeing what's making changes.
Yeah, and I see sometimes it's like, oh, that's not necessary. Let me just do the one thing. Or it depends what I'm doing that day. Today, if I had a bunch of admin work, I wouldn't have taken such an exploratory venture. But I knew that all I really had to do today was have an enlightening conversation with you. So I sort of turned on the parts of myself that are more flow state and creative and, emotionally fulfilling and put you in a positive mood and things like that. Where on another day, I probably wouldn't do any of that stuff, and I would just do something that helps me focus, like my Qualia, which is an all-natural brain enhancement supplement that I love. It's amazing. But I would probably just do that and have a bulletproof coffee in the morning, and I'm good. So it sort of depends on what my goals are.
Right.
But I'm also, taking one for the team in a sense and being the canary in a coal mine. So when other people are curious about some of these other modalities or substances, I can be the guy that said, hey, I've been there. You don't need to do like I did and take 5 majorly powerful things all at once.
You are taking one for the team.
Yeah, I'm like, just, you know what? I've experimented. I've done the research. All you need to do is this one thing if this is what your goal is today.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's what you want to do.
If you have pain in your body, then I would recommend a very small dose, about 1 gram of kratom. You won't get high. You'll feel slightly stimulated, almost like caffeine, but the pain in your body will go away like you took a Vicodin or a bunch of aspirin or ibuprofen. So if that's someone's goal, I could say take the kratom, but I wouldn't tell that person, microdose psilocybin or microdose THC or CBD or whatever. You don't need to do all the things at once. You just find the tool that fits the job.
Right.
Anyway, there's my diatribe.
You're doing great stuff no matter what. Your life, you are doing, just wake up every day knowing you are teaching people, you're motivating people, you're sharing. That's all you need. You're doing great stuff. You feel great. You look great. You're exercising. You're depleting your deuterium. What else do you need?
I'm having a pretty amazing life, I got to say.
Are.
There's one thing I wanted to ask you before we close, and it's funny, when we started this thing, I said, it should be about an hour, and I'm like, I don't think any of my episodes can be an hour anymore. I'm going to stop telling guests that because
you're so inquisitive, yeah.
Well, I meet so many fascinating people like yourself, and I can't keep it to an hour because I'm so curious about.
Well, for the first time in my life,
I
I really have something to say. I'm introvert. I'm quiet. I don't like to talk, but I'm like, Shame, and you have to share. This is.
What sign are you?
Virgo.
Virgo? Oh, really? Your birthday's around nowish.
Yeah. Just
cool. Had
mine. I came to America and they gave me a whole long weekend holiday, Labor Day weekend.
Right. That's funny. Both my parents are Virgos.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a Scorpio. I get along very well with Virgos and Libras and other Scorpios. Those are my top 3 signs.
Huh.
Yeah. Most of my close friends and intimate relationships almost invariably will be one of those 3 signs. Yeah, it's interesting how it works out like that. What I wanted to ask you was, you talked about the 360 approach and how movement and light and things like that are also incorporated into the depletion protocol and the sustenance of living as a depleted person. How does the sun exposure and then also red light therapy, like our friends at Juve,
who we love,
who tried to introduce me to you guys, and I was like, I know, I'm getting there. And then Bill came in and was like, no, you need to do this now. Yeah. But shout out to the guys at Juve.
We love that whole family. They're amazing family.
They're great guys, yeah.
Physically and mentally healthy. And just, I was like, who's your mom? She's
They're from the Midwest.
I know. And their mother's.
That's why.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this because you're from Australia. You may have figured it out after 35 years here. But I swear, people from the Midwest of the United States of America are some solid-ass people.
My Midwest, they show up on time.
That's
they
what I'm
don't walk
saying.
in the door with junk. They get treated and they're appreciative. And
have you noticed that from your patients as well?
Yeah, I love them.
It's a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
And I think
no
what
drama.
it is, to digress a little bit, I think what it is it's almost as if the more scattered people that are more adventurous and as a result sometimes flaky or psychotic on the other end of the spectrum migrate towards the coast, and we all end up in LA and New York. Some amazing talented people, but the salt of the earth people, I don't know, their formative years, they seem to kind of stay in their small city or small town in the Midwest, and then maybe eventually, like the guys in Juve, they move to Orange County. So by the time they hit us, they're 35, 40 years old. Their character...
They're established.
Their character's been established. They have integrity. They look you in the eye. They're honest. They're trustworthy. Not all people. I'm totally generalizing, but I observe people. It's just what I do, and I can't help notice these things. So that's my theory, is that those old school American Judeo-Christian values have been instilled in that culture, and they tend to remain intact even when those people migrate. But people like myself that didn't grow up with any sort of tether to reality in my home life at all, or any sort of, well, I want to give my parents a little credit. They did give me some, the underpinnings of a good character, but I diverted from that for various reasons. But definitely friends that I have that are kind of from small towns in the Midwest, they were just raised with a certain way of interacting with the world that is observable. And as an employer, I've noticed over the years, my partner Lauren and I always talk about this. When we would interview people, we were so excited if they were from Indiana or Illinois or Kansas. We'd be like, you're in. And you could almost guarantee they were going to be a great addition to the team if they were from that part of the country. It's just weird.
It's pretty reliable.
It's trippy, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, total digression there.
So the sun.
Back to the sun and the red light therapy, and I want to talk about the Juve because I just recorded an episode with those guys, which audience listening, that will be coming out after this one, so you can look forward to a whole episode about red light therapy. But when it comes to the angle of deuterium depletion, how does the light thing play into it?
Yeah. So the sun. First of all, we're all nature deficient in general. You know, we are not, you know, we're clothed indoors and out of nature way too much. So we recommend try, if you can, and it's easier here in California, getting into the sun first thing in the morning to establish your circadian rhythm, getting that sunlight into your eyes without glasses or contact lenses. And then I encourage patients, if they can, to get out in the sun during 10 a.m. to 2, where they'll get that benefit of the vitamin D from the sun on as much skin exposure as they can. Even if it's 10 minutes a day, it'll build up, right? And it's a natural form of vitamin.
You see that little chair behind you on,
that's your
on
spot?
my porch?
Oh.
Yeah, it's just low enough where I can be naked out
that's
there.
Fantastic. At least you got that.
Yeah, I'll kind of peek around and be like, I hope, you know, especially with the, you know, the men have to be careful these days. You don't want to be exposing yourself in Hollywood, you know. Unless you're a big director, then you can probably get away with it. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, at least
Not
you're doing
really.
it. I'm lucky I have a yard.
But I do. I like to get out there and get naked, but I am, you know, I'm always paranoid a neighbor's going to be able to see. But I sit out there in the sun, and I mean, it's my nourishment. I mean, that's my medicine. So you're speaking my language there.
Yeah, it does make you feel good, but it also does a lot of good for us. But when I met the Juve people, as a facialist, we always used red light therapy for collagen production.
Oh, interesting.
Right? As a chiropractor, we always used infrared therapies for, you know, collagen production and for healing and inflammation. So I thought, these guys, why didn't I think of that? They're so smart. Now you can have this in your own home. You don't have to go into a clinic with a small spot areas being treated.
Right.
And particularly, I hate the cold, and even in California, I'm not going to be out there in wintertime. So it's fantastic. If people can get these in their homes, you can get that red light, you know, in your eyes first thing in the morning, before you do anything, before you get dressed. And you can also, for the collagen, you know, my face is right in front of that for the collagen production, but you're getting all that full body exposure. Men use it for increased testosterone production. I mean, it has so many benefits that all the Juve people will tell you about, but we're learning that, you know, it's just another biohacking method, which is so fabulous that everybody's learning all these ways to live a longer, better, healthier life and not go down that path with all this biohacking. But we love each other, Juve and because we're really working together with the mitochondria, because light actually moves via resonance, like sound waves, light waves. We actually have light receptors in our gut. Right? How does the light get from the skin into the gut? Via the frequency, the way it moves. If we have a lot of deuterium in there, it'll bump into them and that frequency will change. You're not going to benefit so much from the sunlight. So all of the biohacking things that we do benefit from biohacking number 1, having low deuterium levels. They all respond faster. And we've met a lot of people who have come to us. I'm biohacking, I've done all these things, and yes, I feel better. But they've been doing it for 4 years.
Right.
2 months, I meet them 2 months afterwards. They're completely transformed, no pain, doing things they weren't doing. So, you know, it's great. Do all these biohacking things, but if you really want to get the most out of them or benefit from them faster or get the fast track, is to do the deuterium depletion. But the combination of deuterium depletion and the light therapy, the Juve light therapy, great thing. Do it by yourself at home.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I've noticed a lot of benefits from using the Juve. It's back here in my man cave / podcast studio. One of the main things is my testosterone, based on lab results, is off the charts. It's amazing. It's the only major intervention that I've done that you could, you know, account for such a drastic increase in the blood levels of testosterone and free testosterone. But what I've noticed from the feedback from other people is my skin. You mentioned the beauty element of it, which was totally not my intention. I'm not that worried about the way I look. I feel for 47, I'm doing all right. I don't really give that much attention to it. I would prefer not to go bald. That's one thing I'm a little touchy about as far as my vanity, but you know, wrinkles and stuff or whatever. But I get comments on my skin all the time. Oh my God, you're 47, you have amazing skin. I go, what have I been doing? I go, it's that freaking Juve, because
Yeah.
I put my face up to it at least once a day for 10 minutes, if not twice a day. And I do. I turn my face and my head, and I'm getting that full.
It helps you to build the collagen
right?
in the skin.
I feel like my skin is quite taut, and I don't have a lot of wrinkles for someone my
it doesn't
age.
take much. If you can get the Juve device, it's a great thing you have at home. And when I first got it, I thought, how am I going to stand here? You know, I've got things to do. So it actually has benefited me in more ways than the Juve actually gives me, in that I do my weights while I'm on it.
That's what I do.
So I get double benefit, you know, while I'm on it, or I stretch, or, you know, meditate, or I do things that I wouldn't be doing because I'd be rushing off into doing something else. So it forces me to do some of the other stuff.
That's great.
I'm trying not to multitask anymore because it's just too much. We do it. It's too much.
Right.
But that's something that helps me stay put in front of that Juve device and get the benefit from it while I build muscle.
That's great advice. I do the same thing. I have my little, what are they, 10 or 15 pound little dumbbells. And I'll just sit there and crank those, you know, and stand in front of it. And it's amazing. Okay, well, damn, I feel like I pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover with you, and then some. I don't see anything on my list here that I'm going to, sometimes I like, I don't need my list, and then you'll leave and I'll be like, God damn it, I didn't ask about that one thing. But I really feel like we covered a lot of ground.
There's always a bit more, but we just have to be happy that we just got people's attention and got them informed of something really important, and there's always more to learn and share.
Well, listen, between your episode here today, which, you know, thankfully went on longer than I or you planned, so it's a bonus for everyone. But thankfully, we have this one and then the one from earlier this week with the guys, which is 3 hours. We're at 2 hours now. So that's 5 hours on this topic. So.
I never talked this long, ever. But what's really good, what I feel good about is we have all the data there. What people ask me that I talk to, even medical doctors ask me. And even though the science is all available, what have you seen? They don't want to read studies. They don't know how to glean the information from the studies. So I've been really happy to be able to share the information and tell people. Ask me, how are your patients doing? What have you seen in your patients? So, you know, I've got letters, emails from our patients telling what's happened to them. People with stage 4 colon cancer. His mother wrote to us, so appreciate, thank you so much, because he called me. I went through quite a few rounds of chemo, did not lose his hair. He said, I didn't go through any of those things that people told me I was going to go through, fatigue, brain fog, all of those things. He's in remission. You know, we're hearing really good stories. We just heard from our husband. His wife had stage 4 breast cancer, lump on the heart, 8 centimeters on the brain. He just wrote to us, said it's gone from 8 centimeters to 2 centimeters. They can't find anything on the heart, and that's what they've done. So it is wow, and that's what I hear. I hear wow now. Wow.
And that, you know, I think that's the interesting thing about this, and for the more analytical, skeptical, scientific types out there, or even people that are really still invested in the trusting your Western medicine doctor and stuff, which is ill-advised in my opinion in some cases, not all cases, of course, not to disparage these brilliant doctors, but you know, based on my own experience, a lot of it is a waste of time because you're not getting to the root cause. But what I find cool about the deuterium testing and the depletion protocol is that it's not like you have to stop going to the doctor or doing your chemo or doing whatever other serious intervention. It's actually going to make all that stuff work better, right?
Well, the doctors are appreciative because, first of all, they get patients who are more robust coming to them in the first place before they give them a lot of this pretty, you know, breaks them down, these therapies. So they've already got stronger patients. Oftentimes they don't have to use as much of the chemotherapy and the patients are not having all the side effects, and they're coming out stronger on the other end. They actually still have patients at the end of it all. So it's working really well in conjunction with standard of care. We don't say don't do standard of care. We just, you know, enable people to get through it stronger and come out better on the other side. So practitioners are happy to be able to utilize this for their patients. And our goal is really to, people have missed out because of skepticism, and I get it. When I've had people, when they get a serious condition, or they do this, and they don't know what to do, and it's hard. A non-scientific person has to ruffle through all this, and what do I do? So my goal is to get the word out there that this is something that's credible, It's it works. We've got scientific validation. We've got plenty of people, studies, but also our own patients that have had good results, because I just don't want people missing out. We've had some people, oh, I don't know about that, and then call us kind of in desperation later on, So I want people to just feel more solid comfort and confidence that this is a really good place to go, rather than try this, and end up not really getting anywhere.
Yeah.
Feel safe, feel confident, and hopeful.
Cool. Thank you for that. Well, I'm happy to be the one that's kind of breaking this to my community and the people that are into the kind of stuff that I am and that listen to the show. And again, being kind of the first podcaster to really dive this deep into this, because I look in the app, I search Deuterium, and there's like 3 podcasts. And
as soon as you walked in, as soon as we met you, you were interested. You already had questions you wanted to know.
I've been into this stuff for, we're going on almost 22, 23 years now. Even before that, when I was still really unhealthy, I still kind of was investigating health stuff. So you could say 25 years. And I've seen all the fads come, all the fads go, all the different diets. And I know when I stumble across something that's legitimate. And the minute I heard about this, I heard about it from Jack Cruz.
Right.
And I was like, he's very smart. He's on point. And he goes always based on the biology of nature. And he's all about light, water, and magnetism, which is like everything, more so than diet or any of that stuff. And he was always bitching at me about deuterium. Oh, you're taking supplements? That is deuterium. And I was like, what is this stuff? So I knew based on his recommendation that this was an issue. But then when I met you guys and came over that day before we recorded, I was like, oh my God, I feel like I just discovered penicillin or gold or something. This is a huge...
Dr. Boros has made an amazing discovery, and I tell people it's akin to Newton discovering gravity. And this is the way it is, and it's shocking that his has taken this long to know it. But it actually took these particular 3 scientists to meet each other for it. Everybody has their own expertise, but it took someone who could do the business part and the science, all of it to come together in order for it to get out there.
Yeah, it's fortuitous and auspicious the way that you all have come together, each bringing a certain element of expertise.
Each one has gone through their own challenges. Dr. Boris' twin brother had cancer. Dr. Q's gone through it. Everybody's had their own, long route, double PhDs to get to this point. It's...
Yeah, well, cool. I'm stoked. I'm super happy. I'm like, this is amazing. It's so good to be able to share this stuff with people. I think that's the ultimate thing is like, I'm kind of joking about, oh, I'm the first and I don't want anyone else. Like, this is my topic, my niche thing that I want to get out. Obviously, I want the whole world to get it, but this is amazing for the listeners because it's accessible, it's doable, it makes sense. And like you said, it's not some new theory. This is just hard science. This is a fact. This is the way it is. This stuff is in you. You can get it out. And when you do, you're going to be healthier, period. This isn't like, oh, this supplement, is it working? I don't know. It's not like that. This is a fundamental law and principle of nature that we can work with now, which is just, it's really exciting. So as you can see, I'm very enthusiastic about it. Anyway, we got to wrap this up. So last question for you, Dr. Ann Cooper, is... who are 3 recommendations you can give us where we might go study about anything? So you've been the expert here today teaching me and teaching the audience about this topic, but who are 3 teachers upstream from you that we might go check out? Not necessarily about deuterium or health in general, but just things that have inspired you to be who you are today.
I wish I could come up with people's individual names that you could call up on the phone, but I got so much from my parents from day one. Kindness. My parents, they taught us kindness, our whole family.
Oh, that's cool.
So whoever's, I think they gave us something really important that I came to America with, and my patients appreciated that in me and followed me everywhere.
So is Australia like one giant Midwest?
In a lot of ways. My family's probably the most quiet, shy Australians you'll ever meet.
Are your parents introverts too?
Very much so.
Oh, really?
Very, very,
That's funny.
very
Two
quiet.
introverts
My
bred
dad's
another one.
Totally brilliant, but he taught himself everything, self-taught everything.
Right.
But yeah, we were just raised to be kind. Unfortunately, in our small town, you didn't need to have a lot of grit, but when I came here, I didn't have that, so I had to learn still learning, taking me a long time, but mostly, my friends who have street smarts, I just ask them, how do I handle this? And I've just learnt from a lot of my patients and in discussions and things how to be in a world that's not so tiny and kind. And,
Right.
there was never confrontation or a harsh word in my family. So, I have had to learn how to be emotionally resilient about all sorts of personalities.
Oh my God, living in LA. Yeah. I
So
can
wherever
imagine.
you can get that from, I think is a really important thing, because you can get crushed if you can't handle, if you're not tough enough, you don't have the grit to handle that. Being kind is nice, but we're in a much bigger arena now that you have to deal with. So
Yeah.
whatever can help people with that, because that's what I've had to get a hold of in order to be able to, be happy.
I totally relate to that. Not that I've always been kind, but one of the things, especially my sweet mom, that was, I didn't get a lot of guidance growing up, but one thing that was definitely imparted to me, primarily by my mother, and now later in life, my father, who's since softened up and is a much more gentle and kind person. He was pretty angry when I was a kid. But my mom, I got to give her credit, for for any misgivings. And I ran wild a lot when I was a kid. But one thing that was definitely there was that you treat people with love and respect and kindness. And I was taught that racism is wrong, sexism is wrong, bullying is wrong, just being a dick is wrong. Like, be a good person, be nice, be kind, be loving. But just like you, I really relate to having to, move to a city and find the balance, because there are times where you need to step up and get in someone's face and stop them out of self-preservation, self-love, self-respect.
I ran away a lot.
Yeah, it's the fight, flight, or what is it? Fight, fight, or flee, right? Yeah. So I've always been a freezer. Like, in a confrontational situation, I won't get aggro on someone. I won't run away. I'll just kind of like panic inside and kind of hold my breath and not know what to do. So I've had to overcome that myself and learn how to be assertive while not being abusive.
Yes.
Learning how to not come from anger, but just come from, like I said, self-respect, which is in itself quite powerful. When you have self-worth and you have a line that you draw in the sand with people, and you don't allow people to F with you, that's quite powerful, and you can do that without getting angry.
There's a big talent that I'm still learning. And
I am too.
Yeah.
I am too.
Anybody else who wants to teach me that, cool. But
okay, so for your 3 teachers, we can't go Google your parents and study from them, but we can take in the lesson as just described by both of us. So give me 2 other teachers or teachings of your choice.
Well, obviously I've learned so much from these scientists that I've worked with. I mean, for me now, this is the most important thing that I needed to learn in my life for everything. So, Dr. Boros and Dr. Collins have just been my mentors and have taught me all of this. And I guess we all have to kind of look at what we need to learn for our own benefit and search that out. But mostly, I have really just haven't never searched out gurus or therapists. I've never done that. I've just kind of got the people that I'm with to help me. I mean, I've spent a lot of time one-on-one with people in my work. So, and my friendships. I'm not really into having big parties. I really like to have a small, 1 or 2, 3 people where I can have a conversation with someone. So I guess I just reach out to my pals mostly for guidance.
Cool. I love it. That's totally doable. I mean, technically that's 4 because your middle answer was 2 people. So we appreciate that. And those 2 we can definitely look up. And those listening to this show, I've already mentioned it.
Reach out to your mates.
Yeah, reach out to your
mates.
And if you want to study, Dr. Q and Dr. Laszlo there, you can just go back to the prior episode. You're going to learn all about those guys. And they're both really sweet guys and very warm.
That's what I really do want people to know when I talk to
them.
But
also, they're brilliant. I mean, that's
brilliant
the thing. Often
and funny.
Yeah.
They're comedians
they are,
and
totally.
funny. But they're really, honestly, I want people to know they're coming from the right place.
Yeah.
They haven't made money yet anyway, and that wasn't the goal. The goal is really to raise from very young ages. Dr. Boros is the 9th physician in his family. Dr. Q started out as a little boy with his briefcase, so I'm going to go and learn how to cure cancer or make the world a better place.
Oh, wow.
Very serious from day one. And they have gone through a lot. Yeah. Still with smiley, happy, jokey faces, but they've both experienced a lot going through this, but their goal is still just for... This is the passion and this is the goal, no matter what. He will ask people to do stuff that I would be afraid to ask. It's all for the goal. It's do this because this is the purpose, you know. So with the big major help a lot of people in mind.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And in closing, where can we find anything about you, websites, any of that stuff that you'd like to promote and point people toward?
Well, my clinic is Be Vital, actually. That's my personal clinic, but I'm very much involved and a co-founder of the Center for Deuterium Depletion. So I have my personal practice still. But however,
do you have a site for that?
The Brentwood Vitality Clinic. Oh, it's Be Vital, the letter B, and then the word vital.la. Be vital.la.
Cool. And that's for your chiropractic and your private practice.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
However, with all of that now, I start them with Deuterium Depletion, right? And then, and now we just have so many people calling us that we do consultations from all over the world on the phone.
Right.
And we're sharing this with physicians, and we're very busy really sharing the Center for Deuterium Depletion, or these Deuterium depletion methods to the world. So Center for Deuterium Depletion, or the website is ddcenters.com.
Right, which is also the Instagram handle, DD
Yes.
Centers, at DD Centers, And then Facebook is...
We have Facebook, and somebody else is doing that because I am not good with
Yeah,
that.
I think your Facebook is...
DD Centers, I think. Or Deuterium... Center for... It's the Center for Deuterium Depletion.
Because I tried to tag you guys, and I was like, God damn it, this is so hard to find because it's different than the Instagram and the website. So
we're all learning that stuff.
Yeah, listen.
And what's amazing with this, we've had so many, and even my patients, and this is the most amazing thing I've ever heard, big people. I just want to be involved. You don't need to pay me. Just make sure you're still available when I need you.
That's cool.
But, we've had a lot of people just, this has changed my life. I'll help you out. And we're lucky.
Listen, that's me. I knew from the minute I met you guys, I'm like, I need to make intros. There's people that you guys could meet that are so synergistic that can, really turn up the volume on the public awareness of this particular issue. So I'm excited to help you guys and to watch it grow. I mean, imagine it only takes a few of those big needle movers. You get a Tony Robbins at his event of 12,000 people going, hey, I found the latest thing. This is the best thing ever. Deuterium depletion. Here's what it is. I mean, you get a few of those big names like that, and it has this ripple effect. It's incredible.
We're all pretty much ready for it now. We had to get a lot of things in place, inventory, for example, and make everything look pretty.
Right.
We had to do that before we really got the word out. Otherwise,
well, I found you guys at the right time.
It's all
because really I'm full blown.
Ready.
I'm telling everyone I'm on the rooftop, like, hey, that's great. You're like eating granola and you think it's healthy, but it's high deuterium. You need to get the levels tested and get it down. All right, cool.
It's good stuff. Thanks so much, Luke.
Thank you so much, Ann. I really appreciate you coming by, and thank you for indulging, my very detailed and passionate questions. As I said, I just need to stop promising that the show's going to be an hour to my guests, because it frankly never is. There's just too much amazing stuff to cover. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate the work you're doing, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
I can't wait. Thanks, Luke.